Chapter 367. Defeated. The evil being has been defeated? Everyone on the Ascension ship was stunned when they saw the huge hole in the seal. Their faces were filled with nervousness and anticipation. It's not that simple. The body of this evil being is extremely tough. Several hundred years ago, the master of the Holy City once took action to deal with this evil being. Although he was able to defeat it, he was unable to kill it at all. In the end, he had to rely on the Holy Maiden's sealing formation to seal it. Priest Jinhua said with a grave expression. Sure enough, just as Priest Jinhua finished speaking, a wave of violent vibrations suddenly spread throughout the desert. Soon after, a huge black shadow flapped its black wings and rushed out of the huge hole in the seal. Its mountain-like black claws swept out and directly grabbed at Zhuowen in the air. Zhuowen frowned slightly. He gently stomped his foot and transformed into a lightning glow, easily dodging this claw. Immediately, his eyes narrowed as he stared at the evil being, which appeared to be completely unharmed, a short distance away. This evil being is really durable. It took a full blow from the blood-bursting style just now, but it doesn't seem to be injured at all. Zhuowen muttered in his heart as a solemn expression appeared on his face. At this moment, the evil being's expression was not very good. Its huge eyes stared straight at Zhuowen. It did not expect that the power it was most proud of would be suppressed by the young man in front of it. This made the evil being both shocked and angry. I really didn't expect a mere human to have such powerful strength. This point of yours really makes me admire you. From the strength you displayed just now, I'm afraid that your strength is not inferior to the Lord of the Holy City. But so what? Our netherworld race is an excellent race that is immortal and indestructible. So what if the Lord of the Holy City is stronger than me? He can't kill me at all. The evil being looked at Zhuowen with some fear and sneered. There is no such thing as immortal and indestructible in this world. As long as one's strength reaches a certain level, everything will be destroyed. You are no exception. Zhuowen said indifferently as his right hand gently stroked the body of the spear. What an arrogant brat. I said that you can't kill me, but I can kill you. Based on this point, you are in a situation where you are bound to lose. The evil creature's face turned cold. The pair of black wings on its back suddenly opened and closed. It once again turned into a black shadow and flew toward Zhuowen. Wherever it passed, the entire space shook. Zhuowen was not to be outdone. He raised his spear with his right hand and took a step forward. His entire body turned into a bolt of lightning as he charged towards the evil creature without hesitation. Boom! Boom! In an instant, the two of them had exchanged dozens of blows. The shadows of spears and claws enveloped the entire space, wreaking havoc everywhere like a storm. If someone walked in carelessly, they would definitely be torn to pieces. Wave after wave of violent explosions continuously surged out from the area where the two were fighting. Blazing rays of light spread out like a scorching sun, extremely dazzling. The area within 1,000 miles of the sealed land had turned into an extremely tragic battlefield. Countless huge craters had been blasted out of the sand by the enormous energy. Bang! In the void, Zhuowen dodged a claw shadow. He suddenly tightened his grip on the bloody spear in his hand, and once again fiercely swung it on the evil creature's body. Naturally, the evil creature fell to the ground without exception, smashing out a huge crater. However, Zhuowen's attack really seemed to have no effect on the evil creature. Every time Zhuowen struck it down, the evil creature would still fly up to the void and fight with Zhuowen again. This gave Zhuowen quite a headache. I have an immortal body, but your human body is extremely fragile. I only need to attack your body, then you will definitely die. Die, die, die. The evil creature's eyes were bloodshot. Its huge claws were like a storm as it attacked Zhuowen, without any regard for its own life. The evil creature relied on its advantage of thick skin and thick flesh to attack, without any regard for defense. It was hoping that its attack would hit Zhuowen. As long as it could hit Zhuowen, even if it was just a single attack, it was confident that the human in front of it would be severely injured. At that time, it would definitely win. I only need one attack. As long as I can hit you, I will definitely win. At this moment, the evil creature had gone completely berserk. It attacked Zhuowen without any regard for its own life. Under the evil creature's desperate attacks, Zhuowen, who had seemed to be having a relatively easy time, began to feel a little strained. Although this evil being was slightly weaker than him, and was only equivalent to an ordinary half-step Ultimate Emperor realm cultivator, its body was far more resilient than he'd imagined. Even when he used the Moonfiend Dragonpine Spear, and used the Bloodburst style, it didn't do much damage to the evil being's body. Damn it! This guy's attacks don't seem to care about its life at all, Zhuowen said in surprise as he struggled to defend himself. Finally, under the barrage of attacks from the evil beings, the blood-red great spear in Zhuowen's hand slightly deviated, revealing an extremely obvious flaw in his lower abdomen. You finally revealed a flaw. Now, you can die for me. Looking at the exposed lower abdomen, the evil creature's face immediately revealed a happy expression. Its dark sharp claws fiercely smashed towards the weak spot, directly bombarding Zhuowen's abdomen with irresistible force. Immediately, a powerful energy surged out from behind Zhuo, when in the form of a ring-shaped ripple. Soon after, Zhuowen fell down like a withered leaf. With a boom, he smashed a medium-sized hole in the sand below. What? Zhuowen lost? Looking at the rapidly falling figure, Gu Xian and Hu Wuing on the ascension boat couldn't help but cry out in shock. Even the 4 high priests, and the other people of the Qingshui tribe, had expressions of shock on their faces. Soon after, this shock turned into sadness and despair. They knew that if this powerful young man wasn't a match for this evil creature, their Qingshui tribe would really be finished. It seems that the heavens want our Qingshui tribe to die. This evil creature is really too powerful. Even Zhuowen isn't a match for it. Priest Jinhua clenched her scepter and said rather sadly. Priest Qiushui clenched her jade-like hands and gritted her teeth. Her pretty face was filled with despair. Her cherry lips opened and closed as she muttered, "It's over. It's really over. High Priest, we aren't a match for that evil creature at all. Let's quickly drive the ascension boat and escape. Otherwise, everyone in our Qingshui tribe will die." Seeing that Zhuowen had been defeated, the 5 elders all looked at Priest Qiushui and said in unison, "Priest Qiushui, the elders are right. Let's quickly escape. Our strength is too insignificant. If we go over, we'll just be sending ourselves to our deaths." Amir also said in a deep voice. Priest Qiushui bit her lower lip and stared deeply at the hole in the distance. She also knew that their entire Qingshui tribe couldn't contend with that evil creature, and could only helplessly help Zhuowen. On the ascension boat, Gu Xian and Hu Wuing's expressions changed drastically when they heard this. Gu Xian said furiously, "Brother Zhuo worked so hard to fight for your Qingshui tribe. Now that he's been defeated, you're just going to watch him die and leave?" When Priest Qiushui heard this, there was a trace of shame on her pretty face. After all, Zhuowen had fought against the evil creature alone for their Qingshui tribe. Although it was due to the space-time array, he was still doing his best to protect their Qingshui tribe. Now that they were leaving, it was indeed unreasonable. However, Amir sneered and said, "The sealing stone tablet was originally destroyed by that Zhuowen. The main culprit who lured out the evil creature was also that guy. Shouldn't that guy fight for our Qingshui tribe? Now that that guy is dead, it can be considered as atonement for this disaster." Hearing Amir's words, the crowd on the ascension boat was suddenly shocked. They didn't expect that the sealing stone tablet was actually destroyed by that monstrous youth. However, after the shock, anger appeared on their faces. So it was that youth who destroyed the seal and released the evil creature. He really deserves to die. Now that he's killed by the evil creature, he deserves it. Yes. Yes. He caused our tribe to have to migrate. This person really deserves to be hacked into pieces. He deserves to die. This sinner deserves to die. Many of the Qingshui tribesmen on the ascension ship started cursing and scolding Zhuowen. They seemed to have completely forgotten about how Zhuowen had risked his life to fight for them. The people were like this. They liked to follow the crowd and believe whatever others said. Now Amir only needed to instigate them, and they immediately forgot everything that Zhuowen had done. Instead, they began to curse. Looking at the indignant crowd on the ascension boat, Amir's face immediately became complacent. He even shot a disdainful glance at the angry Gu Xian and Hu Wuing not far away. In his opinion, Zhuowen was especially powerful among the three of them. The two little followers behind Zhuowen were at most small fries, so he didn't put them in his eyes. At that time, Zhuowen's power in breaking the formation made him lose face in front of a group of subordinates. Because he was afraid of Zhuowen's strength, he didn't dare to show it. Now that Zhuowen was dead, Emir naturally did his best to smear Zhuowen's name. Gu Xian and Hu Wuying's faces immediately turned ugly. Looking at the complacent Emir, Gu Xian coldly said, "Shut up. If you dare to speak ill of Brother Zhuo again, don't blame me for being impolite." Impolite? Look at you two small fries. Looking at the two of you, you're just Zhuowen's little followers. How dare you talk tough in front of us? Emir's face also turned cold. He looked at Gu Xian in front of him, and was about to say a few harsh words. Gu Xian suddenly turned into a shadow, and disappeared in front of him. Then he felt his neck tighten. Gu Xian had appeared in front of him without him knowing. She casually grabbed his neck with her right hand and lifted him up, staring at him coldly. Chapter 368. Turtle Firmament Array. Everyone on the Ascension vessel was shocked. They never thought that the scrawny Gu Xian would be able to subdue Emir in a single move. Emir was a bronze warrior with a strength of about 10,000 jin. Such strength was enough to shatter rocks with a single punch, and uproot a tree with both hands. Yet he was so fragile in front of Gu Xian. "You'd better watch your stinky mouth. Otherwise, I'll tear you into pieces." Gu Xian's eyes were extremely cold as she stared at Emir in her hand and said word by word. Emir's face was filled with fear. He nodded repeatedly and stammered, "I won't dare to do it again. Please don't kill me." Humph. With a cold snort, Gu Xian flung Emir to the ground. She then turned to Hu Wuying and said, "Wuying, let's go. Let's go find Brother Zhuo. I believe he won't die so easily." Hu Wuying nodded and gave Emir a warning glare. Then, the two of them jumped off the Ascension vessel and jumped down from the sky. Priestess Qiu Shui looked at Gu Xian and Hu Wuying, who had left the Ascension ship, with a complicated expression. She clenched her jade-like hands and said to Priestess Jin Hua, "Priestess Jin Hua, you drive the Ascension vessel and bring everyone away. I will follow those two to find young Master Zhuo." "High Priestess, you must not. You will die without a doubt if you go. Evil creatures are not something you can deal with." The five elders immediately stepped forward to stop her. Priestess Qiu Shui waved her hand and said with a resolute expression, "Young Master Zhuo is fighting for our Qingshui tribe. As the high priestess of the Qingshui tribe, I naturally owe him a favor. I cannot leave with a clear conscience, so you don't have to persuade me." After Priestess Qiu Shui finished speaking, she leaped off the Ascension ship and disappeared before everyone's eyes, leaving the people on the Ascension ship looking at each other. Priest Jin Hua sighed softly. She knew that since Priest Qiu Shui had made up her mind, then they couldn't stop her at all. She sighed with emotion in a low voice. "This is Priest Qiu Shui's decision. We can't stop her at all. I'll take all of you away from here and head to a safe place first." After saying that, Priest Jin Hua activated the Ascension boat and quickly flew into the distance. Gu Xian and Hu Wuying, who had landed on the sand, looked at the huge evil creature in the distance with fear in their eyes. Just as the two of them were about to go to the sealed land to look for Zhuowen, the sound of wind breaking suddenly rang out from behind them, causing them to involuntarily look back. They saw Priest Qiu Shui, who was wearing a veil, slowly floating down. "Priest Autumn Water, why did you follow me?" Gu Xian frowned and asked curiously. Priest Qiu Shui bowed gracefully, but said with a bitter smile, "Emir has offended you just now. I hope you don't take it to heart. After all, young Master Zhuo is fighting for our Qingshui tribe. As the tribe's high priest, I naturally can't ignore young Master Zhuo's life and death." Hearing Priest Qiu Shui's words, Gu Xian and Hu Wuying's expressions became slightly better. Gu Xian smiled and said, "Since Priest Qiu Shui has said so, then we'll thank you in advance. However, you priests are too weak. It's too dangerous for you to go to the sealed land." Priest Qiu Shui smiled and flipped her lily-white hand. A sparkling and translucent jade appeared in her palm. She said, "This jade is called the Turtle Firmament Stone. It contains a powerful defensive array called the Turtle Firmament Array. The defensive power of this array is enough to delay that evil creature. We can take advantage of that time to save young Master Zhua. There was a slight joy on the faces of the Gu Exan duo when they heard Priest Qiushui's words. They also knew that the priests among the ancient remnant people were extremely proficient in formations. Even powerful practitioners did not dare to underestimate the strength of the formations that they borrowed. Let's go. As he spoke, the three of them hurriedly rushed towards the sealed area. At this time, the evil creature in the sealed land roared to the sky and laughed out loud. Reckless fools, you've finally been killed by this king. You're indeed very strong. If you had a body as strong as this king, then this king would definitely not be your opponent. However, you're just a human. With a human's weak body, this king can directly slap you to death. Therefore, your death is not unjust. After all, you've fought so many rounds with this king. There are 3 more reckless brats coming over. After laughing, the evil creature suddenly turned its head. Its lantern-sized eyes immediately stared at Gu Xian and the other 2 who were rushing towards the sealed land. A sinister smile suddenly appeared on the corners of its mouth. Since you've come to court death, then this king will fulfill your wish. Haha, I haven't come out for a long time. Compared to being sealed, the outside is much better. This king can finally enjoy the pleasure of killing. Saying so, the evil creature stomped its foot on the ground and suddenly turned into a huge black shadow. It rushed towards Gu Exan and the other 2 at a speed so fast that it almost tore through the air. Not good. That evil creature has discovered us and is rushing towards us. Gu Exan immediately noticed that the oppressive huge black shadow was rushing towards them and could not help but turn pale with fright. The 2 of you need to give me a hand. Inject all your energy into the Turtle Cloud Stone to activate the Turtle Cloud Array contained within. Priest Qiushui quickly said. Hearing this, Gu Exan and Hu Wuing also knew that the situation was critical. They hurriedly injected their Yuan power into the Turtle Cloud Stone. For a moment, the surface of the Turtle Cloud Stone emitted a rather dazzling golden light. Then, the golden light turned into thousands of golden rays of light. Countless golden rays of light constantly streaked across the void, faintly outlining a strange outline. The moment the golden rays of light in the void stopped, a golden defensive formation that looked like a tortoise shell appeared in front of the 3 of them. The surface of the Turtle Cloud Array looked like a huge golden tortoise shell. Dazzling golden rays of light constantly flickered. The moment the Turtle Cloud Array was completed, the evil creature had already arrived above their heads. The evil creature laughed wantonly and waved its huge claw, which was as big as a mountain, directly towards the Turtle Cloud Array in front of the 3 of them. You really don't know what's good for you. How dare you try to save people in front of this king? Go to hell. Boom. In an instant, the mountain-like giant claw slammed into the tortoise shell. Then countless sparks burst out and streaked across the void. The firmament tortoise array trembled violently, but miraculously, it managed to block the evil creature's claw. Is this a formation? It can actually block this king's claw. Looks like it's not simple. However, this is the end of it. Watch as this king tears it apart. The evil creature was stunned at first. Then it waved its claw again. Thick black energy revolved around its huge claw. Its powerful energy fluctuation almost caused the surrounding space to become slightly unstable. Boom! The huge claw mercilessly bombarded the tortoise shell again. Then, a sudden cracking sound was heard. Then, Gu Exan and the other 2 were shocked to find that the surface of the Turtle Cloud Array had already cracked. Break it! With a loud shout, the evil creature exerted force with its right claw. The Turtle Cloud Array immediately shattered into powder like glass. Pfft! Gu Exan and the other 2 immediately spat out mouthfuls of blood from the backlash of the formation. Then, they all flew backwards and fell into the sandpit. Their faces were contorted in pain. This evil creature is really strong. Its strength is comparable to a half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm expert. It might even be a little stronger. We're finished this time. Hu Wuing said gloomily. Gu Exan smiled bitterly. I originally thought that with Brother Zhua's participation, our Rattan Armor City would shine in this Origin Chi Tower battle. I didn't think that we'd have such a bad start. Although Priest Qiushui didn't quite understand what Gu Xian and Gu Xen were talking about, she knew that the three of them were really finished. If even the turtle cloud array couldn't stop the evil creature, then there was no need to mention the three of them. Kiki, all of you go to hell. After breaking through the turtle cloud array, the evil creature didn't show any mercy. Its mountain-like claw blasted out once again, targeting Gu Xian and the other two who were struggling to get up not far away. Just as the giant claw was about to descend on their heads, an ear-piercing sound suddenly cut through the air from afar. Soon after, it fiercely slammed into the descending giant claw. Clang! A crisp sound suddenly rang out. Then the giant claw with irresistible force actually stopped in midair. The evil creature couldn't help but be stunned. Its gaze converged on the giant claw. It saw a blood-red spear with dense blood qi directly under its giant claw. When it saw the blood-red spear clearly, the evil creature's pupils involuntarily shrank. Wasn't that Zhuo's weapon? How is this possible? That brat didn't die. He actually didn't die from my full-strength attack? The evil creature waved its giant claw and slapped the blood-red spear away. Then, its eyes were filled with shock as it looked at the deep pit not far away. Then, it was shocked to see a slender figure slowly walking towards it. At the same time, in the right palm of the figure, a five-colored lotus flower that constantly emitted muffled crackling sounds slowly bloomed. Just now were you tickling me? Zhuowen stared at the evil creature and said calmly, "Damn it! What a troublesome human! You actually didn't die. However, it's not too late to finish you off now." With a cold snort, the evil creature directly gave up on Gu Xian and the other two in front of it. The black wings on its back suddenly opened and closed, and it directly swept towards Zhuowen. Its eyes were filled with killing intent. Looking at the evil creature rushing towards him, Zhuowen's face was very calm. Zhuowen slowly raised his right hand, and then gently threw it. The five-colored lotus flower in his palm bloomed in the most dazzling manner in the void and flew towards the evil creature. Haha! It's useless. No matter what move you use, it won't work on me, because I have an immortal and indestructible body. The evil creature didn't care about the fire and ice lotus. With a cold smile, it waved its giant claw and casually slammed it on the fire and ice lotus, wanting to directly destroy it. However, the instant his claw came into contact with the lotus, his heart involuntarily thumped a few times. That was an omen of extreme danger. Soon after, he felt a faint but intense fluctuation from the ice and fire lotus in his claw. Chapter 369. Resolve. The five-colored lotus quietly floated in the air and slowly bloomed. It was a beautiful and refined flower, giving one a brand new look. Seeing the five-colored lotus getting closer and closer, the sinister smile on the evil creature's face suddenly froze and was replaced by shock. This was because it actually felt a strong sense of danger from this seemingly powerless five-colored lotus. This sense of danger was something it had never felt since it was born in this world. Damn it! What's going on with this lotus? Why does the aura it's faintly emitting make my heart palpitate? This five-colored lotus is definitely not ordinary. Dodge! Just as the giant claw was about to touch the five-colored lotus, the evil being's hair stood on end. The black wings on its back suddenly retracted, and it actually retreated directly. Its intuition told it that it absolutely couldn't take this five-colored lotus head-on. In the distance, the winged Zhuowen watched as the evil creature tried to escape. A cold smile appeared on his lips as he said indifferently, "Trying to escape? But it's too late. Icefire Lotus! Explode!" As he spoke, Zhuowen reached out with his right hand and gently pinched the air. The five-colored lotus flower that was within reach of the evil being actually expanded countless times in an instant. Then a violent explosion that seemed to shake the heavens and earth suddenly rang out. Following that, a dazzling five-colored brilliance flashed across the horizon. Boom! The destructive energy created a series of translucent ripples in the air. With the five-colored lotus as the center, the ripples spread out in all directions. Then, the sand within several thousand miles of the sealed area seemed to become weightless as it suddenly soared into the sky, forming a dazzling rain of sand that pitter-pattered down, Gu Exan, Hu Wuying, and priest Qiushui were the first to realize that something was wrong. They had all retreated several thousand miles away. At this moment, the three of them were staring dumbfoundedly at the area in the distance that was like a sun. That area had become a hot area with countless explosions occurring continuously. Zhuowen actually had this move? Isn't this move a bit too terrifying? Even an ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator would probably be skinned alive if they were hit by that five-colored lotus. Gu Xian and Hu Wuying looked at each other and saw a trace of shock in each other's eyes. This was the first time they had seen Zhuowen use such a powerful move like the Icefire Lotus. Naturally, they couldn't remain calm. Looks like Brother Zhua didn't use his full strength when he fought against Lu Yuanhua in the Mortal Pavilion. If he had used this move back then, Lu Yuanhua might really have been defeated by Brother Zhua. Hu Wuying sighed with emotion. Gu Xian firmly nodded when he heard that. At the same time, he felt a bit more confident about this trip to the Sandstone Island. Since Zhuowen had such a powerful trump card, their Vine Armor City basically didn't need to fear any advanced cities. Perhaps Vine Armor City really would be able to successfully pass through the first layer this time. Priestess Qiushui, who was standing not far away from the two of them, covered her cherry lips with her jade-like hands. Her pretty face was filled with shock. This was the first time she had seen such a power that seemed like it could collapse the heavens and shatter the earth. Especially the explosion area that stretched for nearly 1,000 miles in the void. It was as dazzling as the scorching sun in this world. At the same time, extremely miserable cries rang out in the sealed area. Gu Xian and the others immediately recognized the owner of the cries. Wasn't it the evil being? The three of them could even see the figure of the evil being constantly rolling and struggling in the sun-like explosion area. It's really terrifying. The body of the evil being is extremely tough. Even the Lord of the Holy City couldn't kill it. He could only suppress it. However, under the explosion of the five-colored lotus, the evil being actually let out such miserable cries. It seems that the evil being has been injured. Seeing the figure constantly struggling in the explosion area, Priest Qiushui couldn't help but say in surprise, "Whoosh! Damn human! Just you wait, I won't let you go." In the explosion area, the evil being roared towards the sky unwillingly. Then the black wings on its back contracted. It actually planned to directly rush out of the area and escape. However, just as the evil being was about to rush to the edge of the explosion area, a slender figure holding a blood-red great spear slowly walked over. As soon as this figure appeared, the surrounding explosion energy retreated, opening a path for him. Want to escape? Do you think it will be so easy? The figure raised his head slightly, revealing a delicate and handsome face. He grinned at the evil being in front of him. Immediately, the blood-red great spear moved. Countless blood seas gathered around the great spear. Then, Zhuowen stepped lightly and instantly arrived in front of the evil being. He swung the great spear and ruthlessly whipped the evil being's body. Bang! The evil being's huge body was suddenly sent flying by this blow. It shot back into the center of the explosion area. Immediately, countless explosive forces enveloped the evil being. Then, more miserable cries rang out. Hovering at the edge of the explosion, Zhuowen's expression was indifferent as he looked at the evil being in the middle of the explosion zone. There was a trace of surprise in his heart. He was well aware of the power of the Ice and Fire Lotus. However, the evil being was only seriously injured after being hit by the Ice and Fire Lotus. The toughness of its physical body caused Zhuowen's expression to change. After about 10 breaths of time, the miserable cries in the explosion area finally became weaker. Finally, the miserable cries came to an abrupt end. Immediately, a huge black figure fell straight down from the center of the explosion area like a meteorite, smashing a huge deep hole in the ground. Narrowing his eyes, Zhuowen's feet gently stepped on the air. With a swoosh, he landed above the deep hole and quietly looked down at the evil being that was on its last breath. At this moment, the evil being looked very miserable. The ink-black scales on its surface were all curled up. Through the gaps in the scales, one could see bloody wounds. It looked quite ferocious and terrifying. The evil being lying in the deep hole panted violently. From time to time, it coughed up thick blood. Its huge lantern-like eyes looked at Zhuan in horror. It could not understand how its tough physical body could be broken by the young man in front of it. Now its life was in danger. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. At the same time, 3 figures suddenly rushed over from afar and arrived in front of the deep hole in an instant. It was Gu Xian and the other 2. When they saw the evil being falling from the sky, they rushed over without stopping. When they saw the evil being that was on its last breath in the deep hole, the expressions on their faces suddenly became rich. The evil being was defeated? This evil being that has troubled our Qingshui tribe for hundreds of years was defeated just like that? Priest Qingshui muttered to herself. There was still a trace of disbelief on her pretty face. Boom! Boom! In a void nearly 10,000 miles away from the sealed land, a white flying boat was flashing past. Suddenly, a violent explosion was transmitted, and then an invisible energy ripple caught up with the flying boat in an instant, causing the flying boat to tilt to the side. What's going on? What's going on with this energy? There were thousands of people on the flying boat. Under such a bumpy ride, they could not help but sway. Everyone's faces suddenly revealed a look of horror. Then, they all looked in the direction of the sealed area. When everyone saw that in the void of the sealed area thousands of miles away, there was actually another ball of light that looked like the sun. The intense light was so dazzling that everyone could not help but cover their eyes with their hands and look over with narrowed eyes. Isn't that where the sealed area is? Could that energy be released by the evil being? It's really powerful. Just a trace of its energy shockwave is enough to make the ascension boat sway. Our Qingshui tribe is really finished. This evil being is really powerful. It's just a pity for our high priest. That's right. Why did the high priest have to go find that Zhuan? That's just jumping into a fire pit. That Zhuan is really hateful. If he died, then so be it. Instead, he harmed our Qingshui tribe. Priest Jinhua's forehead was covered in sweat. Only then did she manage to stop the swaying flying boat in midair. Then, the 3 high priests and 5 elders looked at the violent explosion in the distance with complicated expressions. The evil being broke out of the seal. I really don't know who can stop such an evil being. Priest Jinhua said with a sigh. It's all that Zhuan's fault. If it weren't for him, our Qingshui tribe wouldn't have to migrate at all, let alone wander around. It's one thing for that fellow to die, but he still wants to drag our Qingshui tribe down with him. How despicable. Amir mustered up his courage and said hatefully, since Gu Xian and the others weren't on the flying boat. Amir, say less. Although the sealing steel was destroyed by Zhuan, he still fought for your Qingshui tribe. Now he even died in battle. It's enough to make up for his mistakes. Don't you think it's inappropriate for you to pursue the mistakes of a dead person? Priest Jinhua frowned when she saw Amir blabber on and on. She snorted coldly and spoke with some dissatisfaction. Priest Jinhua, you're not a priest of our Qingshui tribe. You have no right to order me around. After all, the one bearing the brunt of this disaster is our Qingshui tribe, not your Golden Flower tribe. Amir crossed his arms and sneered. You! Priestess Jinhua's expression changed slightly. She pointed at Amir, and a trace of anger appeared on her face. But at this moment, the scepter in her hand suddenly lit up, and then a young woman's face appeared. Priest Qingshui, how are you? Were you affected by the evil being's attack? This was the communication device between their tribes. It could show the other party's face. Priest Jinhua looked at the projection in front of her with surprise, and quickly asked. When the Qingshui tribesmen on the flying boat saw Priest Qingshui's projection, their faces lit up with joy. They quickly gathered around Priest Jinhua and stared at her projection with bright eyes. Priest Jinhua, now that the Qingshui tribe is safe, quickly take the flying boat back. Priest Qingshui smiled. What? Priest Qingshui, are you joking? The evil being is still wreaking havoc in the sealed area? We'll just be throwing our lives away if we go back. Priest Jinhua said strangely. The evil being has already been dealt with. It was young Master Zhua who dealt with it. That earth-shattering explosion was caused by young Master Zhua. Chapter 370. Parthenon Temple. What? Zhuan isn't dead? And he even defeated the evil creature? How is that possible? How can Zhuowen still be alive after being hit by the evil creature? Also, Priestess Qiushui said that the evil creature has been dealt with. That's impossible. Even the Lord of the Sacred City couldn't deal with the evil creature, and could only rely on the seal to trap it. How can Zhuowen deal with it? Could it be that he's even stronger than the Lord of the Sacred City? On the airship there was an uproar. Everyone couldn't help but voice their doubts. In their hearts, the evil creature was so powerful that even the Lord of the Sacred City couldn't deal with it. How could Zhuowen deal with it? They didn't believe it at all. Even if it came from Priestess Qiushui, they still wouldn't believe it. High Priestess, did you make a mistake? Although Zhuowen is very strong, it's not possible for him to deal with the evil creature alone, right? After all, even the Lord of the Sacred City couldn't deal with that evil creature. Amir hurried to the front of the projection and asked with a frown. Faced with Amir's doubts, Priestess Qiushui frowned and said indifferently, "Since you don't believe it, then look at this and you won't doubt it anymore." After Priestess Qiushui finished speaking, a huge crater appeared on the side of the projection. In the crater, a creature as big as a mountain was lying in the crater on its last breath. At this moment, the mountain-like creature was exceptionally miserable. The scales on its body were almost curled up and blood flowed freely. Even moving seemed to be extremely difficult for it. On the airship, when everyone saw the miserable state of the giant creature, they all sucked in a breath of cold air. Wasn't this the evil creature that was wreaking havoc in the seal just now? The evil creature was actually defeated? Did Zhuowen really defeat the evil creature? When everyone regained their senses, the ascension ship became noisy again. Many of the tribesmen of the Qingshui tribe couldn't help but cheer. After all, the Qingshui tribe was their home. Naturally, they weren't willing to move. Now that the evil creature was taken care of, they were naturally overjoyed. Other than joy, many people's gazes also contained a complicated expression. They did not expect that the seemingly frail-looking youth would actually be able to deal with the evil creature in the end. This caused everyone to involuntarily revere Zhuowen. After all, the strong would be respected no matter where they went. This was an unchanging law since ancient times. Amir, who didn't believe it at first, fell silent at this moment. Looking at the pitiful evil creature in the image, Amir couldn't help but shudder. The shock in his heart was more intense than anyone else's. Young Master Zhuo is truly amazing. He was actually able to get rid of that evil being completely by himself. Let's go. Let's return to Qingshui tribe now. The 3 high priests and the 5 elders of Qingshui tribe, including Priestess Jin Hua, were all pleasantly surprised. Immediately after, Priestess Jin Hua hurriedly activated the ascension ship and turned into a shadow with a whoosh, returning along the original path. Hundreds of thousands of miles away from the Qingshui tribe, there was an extremely vast oasis. The oasis was filled with trees, and there was an abundant lake. The area of this oasis was much larger than the oasis where the Qingshui tribe was located. Compared to this oasis, the Qingshui tribe's oasis paled in comparison. This oasis was called the Sacred Region by countless vestigial tribes. It was the center of the entire sandstone island, and at the centermost position of the Sacred Region was a huge city that looked like a huge coiling dragon. The height of the city walls alone was dozens of feet high. The area it occupied was even more vast, almost occupying 1/3 of the oasis's area. This city was the Holy City, a place that countless vestigial tribes of the Sandstone Island yearned to enter. However, the conditions to enter were too harsh. The Holy City was under the jurisdiction of the Lord of the Holy City, and everyone in the Sacred Region was an extremely powerful warrior. Everyone here worshipped great power, so if one wanted to enter the Holy City, one must display enough strength to qualify to enter the Holy City. Of course, there was another shortcut to enter the Holy City, and that was to have enough wealth. Even if the people who provided enough wealth to the Holy City were not strong enough, they could still enter the Holy City. Therefore, the people in the Holy City were either rich or strong, and the people inside were not simple people. At this time, the Holy City was bustling with people and carriages. However, the people walking in the Holy City would occasionally look at a white stone temple in the center of the Holy City with awe. This temple was called the Parthenon Temple. Its architectural style was similar to the Roman Colosseum on Earth. It was located in the center of the Holy City, in a circular shape. It was dozens of feet tall, and had a total of 100 floors. Each floor had an arched white stone door. Through these doors, one could see many figures coming and going inside. At the top of the Parthenon temple was an arched hall. In this hall, a graceful figure stood quietly in the center of the hall. This graceful figure was a young girl of about 18 years old. She had a head of long golden hair, and the thin veil outlined her graceful figure extremely alluring. Under the long golden hair, an extremely white and holy face slowly appeared. This girl was the owner of the Parthenon temple, and also one of the highest leaders of the Holy City, Saintess Alice. In the Holy City, Alice's reputation was greater than the Lord of the Holy City. Whether it was the warriors or the priests, they all greatly respected this saintess who represented the Holy City. Creak! The stone door of the hall was suddenly pushed open. A burly middle-aged man with short golden hair, wearing a golden armor, quickly walked into the hall. Alice! What's going on? Why did you suddenly summon me to your Parthenon temple? The golden-haired middle-aged man came to the center of the hall and stared at Alice's back. He knew that Alice, as the saintess, wouldn't easily summon him if it wasn't something important. Now that she suddenly summoned him, it was likely that something big had happened. Alice slowly turned around, raised her head slightly, and softly said to the golden-haired man, Lord Ottos of the Holy City, the evil creature sealed in the southeast region has broken out of the seal. What? An evil creature has broken out of the seal? Alice, why didn't you inform me earlier? Now that the evil creature has broken out of the seal, the surrounding tribes will definitely be plunged into misery and suffering. You should have sent me a message about such a serious matter, so I could have been prepared. Ottos immediately glared at Alice when he heard her words. Alice didn't care at all. She still said with a calm expression, The reason why I didn't inform you is because I sensed that the evil creature that broke out of the seal has become very weak. It seems like it could die at any time. What? The evil creature that broke out of the seal has become weak? How is that possible? The vitality of these evil creatures is comparable to cockroaches. Even I can't kill them. The most I can do is suppress them. Ottos frowned and mumbled to himself. There's no need to guess. The evil creature in the southeast was killed by someone. Just now, through the senses of the Parthenon temple, I sensed a power far stronger than yours appear in the southeast. It was this power that severely injured the evil creature. It's not far from death now. Alice's tone was very calm. Otto's right hand trembled when he heard this. He glared at Alice and said, A power far stronger than mine? And severely injured the evil creature? Alice, are you sure what you sensed is the truth? I, Ottos, am the Lord of the Holy City, the strongest warrior on the entire Sandstone Island. I'm also the only golden warrior. Who on this island is stronger than me? Alice's beautiful eyes flickered. She sighed and said, If you don't believe me, then forget it. Maybe there really is something wrong with my senses. Alice knew Ottos's character very well, since he had become the Lord of the Holy City, and the first gold-tier warrior in the history of the Sandstone Island. Ottos had become extremely conceited and arrogant. In Ottos's opinion, he was undoubtedly the strongest person on this island. Ottos narrowed his eyes and looked deeply at Alice. He turned and left the hall, after leaving behind a few words. Alice, I hope you won't make such a joke next time. A trace of worry appeared on Alice's calm face as she looked at the departing figure. She softly murmured to herself, Over the past few days, the Parthenon temple has been transmitting a sense of danger. Could it be related to the power that destroyed the evil creature? Unfortunately, Ottos is too headstrong and self-opinionated. He didn't notice this sense of danger at all. I wonder if the Holy City will be affected. In a dense forest thousands of miles away from the Holy City, there was a group of people slowly approaching the Holy City. Standing at the front of the group was a young man, who was no more than 25 years old. There was a sparkling and translucent token on the young man's waist, and the front of the token was engraved with the word, Earth. It was actually an Earth-ranked token. Since this team had an Earth-ranked token, their identity was self-evident. They were one of the representatives of the 4 advanced cities that had entered the Sandstone Island. The Holy City is the real core of the Sandstone Island. It is also the holy land that all the lost clans on this island yearn for. The control center of the Sandstone Island must be in the Holy City. We just need to sneak into the Holy City and capture the Lord of the Holy City and the Saintess. Then we can directly interrogate them about the location of the control center of the Sandstone Island. The young man in the lead had a handsome face. He looked at the huge holy city in the distance with a face full of confidence. We also need to be careful of the teams from the other 3 advanced cities. After all, they are all advanced cities. We have to be careful. The man in blue standing next to the young man said indifferently, Su Shui, are you afraid? Our 9 Dragons City has 3 half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators. Only the Thunder Universe City is a little difficult to deal with. The other 2 teams aren't even worth mentioning, the young man chuckled. Maybe. Let's enter the Holy City first. When the time comes, we'll find an opportunity to make our move. The man in blue shrugged. Chapter 371. Entering the sealed grounds. The sealed grounds was filled with countless holes and sand. It was a desolate and decadent place. Thud thud thud. Landing lightly on the evil creature's head. Zhuowen's eyes were filled with coldness as he stared at the dying evil creature. Don't kill me, I beg you. The evil creature's huge eyes were filled with fear, and it started to beg for mercy. Zhuowen shook his head and sneered. Do you think it's useful to beg for mercy now? Since you've lost, your fate is sealed. So, go to hell. Clang. The blood-red spear made a buzzing sound as it pierced through the air and pierced the evil creature's head. The sharp spear pierced through the gaps between the curled scales and pierced the evil creature's flesh like a hot knife through butter. The powerful Yuan power used the blood-red spear as a medium and smashed the insides of the evil creature's head into mush. Damn it. If you kill me, you'll die a horrible death too. The intense pain caused the evil creature to howl at the sky. Its eyes were wide open as it stared at Zhuowen with hatred. Its life force slowly dissipated, and it died with its eyes wide open. This was originally a battle to the death. Begging for mercy before death is such a joke. Zhuowen said indifferently, as he shook his head with a mocking smile. The moon demon dragon pine spear seems to be devouring the essence blood of this evil creature? Just as Zhuowen was about to pull out the moon demon dragon pine spear, he suddenly realized that the spear in his hand was acting strangely. He could not help but mumble to himself. Kid, it seems like the essence blood of this evil creature contains a trace of the dragon clan's bloodline. Otherwise, the moon demon dragon's pine spear would not be so eager to absorb its essence blood. Xiaohei's voice suddenly rang out in his mind. Hearing this, Zhuowen felt relieved. The moon demon dragon's spine spear was originally refined from the moon demon dragon's spine in ancient times. Furthermore, it was a young moon demon dragon spine spear. Therefore, this spear was much more malleable than other soul treasures. As a member of the dragon clan, the moon demon dragon naturally desired the bloodline of the dragon clan. Ever since the moon demon dragon spine spear absorbed the blood essence of the bloodhorn dragon slaying flood serpent in the blood swamp, it was upgraded from a middle-grade spirit treasure to a high-grade spirit treasure. However, it was still only a low-grade high-grade spirit treasure. With the help of the Moon Demon Secret Manual, its power could barely be compared to a high-grade spirit treasure. I wonder if the Moon Demon Dragon Spine Spear can be upgraded to a high-grade middle-grade spirit treasure after absorbing the blood essence of this evil being? Looking at the Moon Demon Dragon Spine Spear that was continuously absorbing the essence blood of evil creatures, Zhuowen revealed a trace of a smile on his face. The Moon Demon Dragon Spine Spear, that was complemented by the Moon Demon Secret Codex, was of great help to him. Being able to raise the grade of the Moon Demon Dragon Spine Spear naturally made Zhuowen feel pretty good. While the Moon Demon Dragon Spine Spear is absorbing the blood essence, I should take advantage of this time to properly recuperate from my injuries. With that, Zhuowen directly sat down cross-legged on the evil being's head. After swallowing a few healing pills, he silently closed his eyes and began to recuperate. Zhuowen had not won this battle easily. The full force attack of the evil being was not easy to bear. Although Zhuowen had cultivated the jadestone body tempering method to the 6th level, and his body was far stronger than an ordinary half-step ultimate emperor realm cultivator, he still felt the blood in his body boil and roil. There were faint signs of a backlash. Not far away, Gu Xian and the other two watched as Zhuowen sat cross-legged and recuperated. They did not dare to disturb him in the slightest, and could only wait silently. Whoosh! The sound of something breaking through the air rang out. Soon after, a white ascension boat shot through the air, and finally stopped not far away from Gu Xian and the other two. It then slowly descended. Priest Jinhua, the 3 high priests, and the 5 elders led the tribesmen of the Clearwater tribe off the boat, and gathered towards Gu Xian, Priest Qiushui, and Hu Wuing. During the process of disembarking from the ship, everyone saw the mountain-like evil creature's corpse not far away, especially the slender figure sitting cross-legged on the evil creature's head. Looking at the figure, everyone's eyes involuntarily revealed a look of reverence. They knew that the evil creature was killed by this person. Priest Qiushui, High Priest. A group of people gathered and came to Priest Qiushui's side. Among them, the 5 elders asked in a probing manner, "Qiushui, is that evil thing really dead?" Priest Qiushui smiled faintly. "Don't worry. The evil being has been completely dealt with by young Master Zhua. In the future, our Clearwater tribe will no longer have to worry about anything. Speaking of which, we still have to thank young Master Zhua." After she finished speaking, the 5 elders and the tribesmen of the Clearwater tribe revealed a relaxed expression. The evil being's existence had always been a threat to the survival of their tribe. Now that it had been dealt with, it was undoubtedly an undeniable benefit to their tribe. The High Priest is right. This is all thanks to young Master Zhua. If it weren't for him, our Clearwater tribe would still have to constantly be on guard against the evil being's threat. The 5 elders looked at each other and smiled as they spoke. On the other hand, Gu Xian and Hu Wuing sneered. When Zhuowen was struck down by the evil being, this group of people ran away faster than anyone else. They even indiscriminately blamed Zhuowen. Now that the evil being had been dealt with, their faces changed faster than anyone else. However, Gu Xian and Hu Wuing did not intend to pursue the matter. After all, they would not be staying in the Clearwater tribe for long. When the time came, they would leave through the space-time array and head to the Holy City after obtaining the green crystal jades from the sealed land. After waiting for another hour, a clear buzzing sound suddenly rang out from the blood-red great spear. Then, the great spear trembled and automatically shot out from the evil being's body. Zhuowen, who was sitting cross-legged on the head of the evil being, slowly opened his eyes. The corners of his mouth revealed a trace of a smile. With a light step, he leaped into the air and easily caught the flying moon demon dragon spine spear in his hand. At this time, the moon demon dragon spine spear did not change much compared to before. However, from the body to the tip of the spear was covered with a rich dark red color. Compared to the previous blood red color, it was slightly dimmer. However, the aura emitted from the spear made Zhuowen quite satisfied. Looks like the dragon tribe bloodline within this evil object is quite rich. It actually managed to raise the demon moon dragon spine spear from a low-rank soul treasure to a high-rank middle-rank soul treasure in one go. Zhuowen joyfully said as he felt the powerful aura being transmitted from the spear. After putting away the moon demon dragon spine spear, Zhuowen immediately noticed that not far away, Gu Xian, Hu Wuing, and the tribesmen of the Qingshui tribe were all staring at him. Ignoring the others, Zhuowen directly went in front of Gu Xian, Hu Wuing, and Priestess Qiushui. He cupped his hands in a sincere manner and said, "Brother Gu, Brother Hu and Priestess Qiushui, thank you for risking your lives to save me. Brother Zhua, you are too polite. With your strength, you did not need us to save you at all. Just now we were just doing something unnecessary. Moreover, the 3 of us were saved by you," Gu Xian said with a hollow laugh. Hu Wuing and Priestess Qiushui were also a little embarrassed. Just as Gu Xian said, the 3 of them really did not help at all. Instead, they were more of a hindrance to him. "Since you are so considerate, then I, Zhuowen, will naturally accept your kindness." Zhuowen said seriously. When it came to dealing with people, Zhuowen was still very principled. Although Gu Xian and the others did not help at all, they did not hesitate to fight against the evil creatures in order to save him. This courage and attitude made Zhuowen's heart feel slightly warm. Seeing Zhuowen so serious, the three of them were quite moved. In the end, Priestess Qiushui said with a smile, "Young Master Zhua is indeed a man of character." Qiushui is impressed. "Also, don't the three of you want to go to the holy city? I wonder if you can bring me along." "You also want to go to the holy city?" Zhuowen said with a little surprise. Yes, Qiushui originally planned to go to the Parthenon temple in the holy city to learn the Tao of formations. If I enter the Parthenon temple, I will be able to receive the personal guidance of the saintess. This will be of great help to my cultivation of the Tao of formations, so... Priestess Qiushui clenched her jade-like hands and secretly sized up Zhuowen. Since Priestess Qiushui said so, I naturally will not refuse. However, Priestess Qiushui, you should first bring us to the sealed place and find the green crystal jade. There is not much time left for the three of us. Nodding slightly, Zhuowen looked at Priestess Qiushui and said. Hearing this, Priestess Qiushui nodded. She turned around and said a few words to the people of the Qingshui tribe. Then, Priestess Qiushui led Zhuowen and the others to the depths of the sealed place. The center of the sealed place was where the sealing stone tablet was located. Looking at the deep cave in the center of the sealing stone tablet fragment, Zhuowen shook his head and smiled bitterly. When he first broke the sealing stone tablet, he really did not notice the cave under the sealing stone tablet. The green crystal jade vein is in this cave. The three of you only need to follow behind me. Although the evil creatures have been eliminated, there are still many formations and restrictions left in this cave. If you accidentally trigger them, it will be extremely troublesome. As she spoke, Priestess Qiushui took the lead and entered the cave. Zhuowen and the other two naturally followed closely behind her. Once they entered the cave, Zhuowen and the other two felt a cold aura invading them. The light in the cave was extremely dim. Fortunately, the few of them were warriors with good cultivation. Even in the dark, they could see clearly. The cave was extremely deep and connected in all directions. There were always many corners extending from time to time, like a maze. Fortunately, with Priestess Qiushui leading the way, the few of them walked quite smoothly. Along the way, the four of them would occasionally encounter some traps and formations. Fortunately, they were all broken by Priestess Qiushui one by one. After about an hour, the four of them finally arrived at the deepest part of the cave. This was a huge natural hall, surrounded by steep rock walls. From time to time, water droplets would drip from the surface of the rock walls. The sound of the water droplets hitting the ground was quite clear and pleasant. The three of you, the green crystal jade vein is right in front. Priestess Qiushui pointed ahead and said. Chapter 372. Refining the crystal jade vein in front of them was a rather short passageway. On both sides of the passageway, there were pieces of sparkling and translucent fiery red ores. These ores were shaped like flames. If one did not look carefully, they would think that the passageway was filled with flames instead of ores. However, Zhuowen stared straight at the fiery red ores in the passageway. He could not help but whisper, shaped like flames, with many horns on the sides. Hot like flames, color like cinnabar. Isn't this the refining crystal jade mentioned in the jade stone body tempering technique? The jade stone body tempering technique mentioned that refining crystal jade was a type of jade that was refined from magma in the depths of the earth. The refining crystal jade was filled with a fiery heat. The shape of the jade itself was extremely similar to flames, but it was too rare. Refining crystal jade was too rare in the outside world. Even the Xianbao Pavilion, a top chamber of commerce in the Qingxian Empire, did not have any refining crystal jade. However, the densely packed mineral veins in front of Zhuowen were actually all refining crystal jade. This made Zhuowen feel a little dizzy. Since when did refining crystal jade become so worthless? Priest Qiushui, Gu Xian, and Hu Wuying also noticed Zhuowen's strange behavior. Priest Qiushui asked with some surprise, "Young Master Zhua, do you recognize this green crystal jade?" "I do. This green crystal jade is called refined crystal jade where we come from. This kind of jade is extremely important to me. I wonder if Priest Qiushui is willing to part with a portion of it? Zhuowen stared at Priest Qiushui with a fervent gaze. When Gu Xian and Hu Wuing heard about refining crystal jade, their faces were also filled with shock. It was obvious that the two of them had also heard of refining crystal jade. In an instant, their gazes became much more fervent. Seeing the strange expressions of the three, Priest Qiushui also knew that this green crystal jade would be very useful to Zhuowen. She smiled and said, "Young Master Zhua, why are you treating me like an outsider? After all, you were the one who dealt with the evil creature. You are the benefactor of our Qingshui tribe. The reserves of this green crystal jade are quite rich. If young Master Zhua wants it, feel free to take it." When Priest Qiushui said this, Zhuowen gratefully cupped his hands and said to Gu Xian and Hu Wuing, "You know the value of this refining crystal jade. And the reserves of this mineral vein is also extremely rich. You don't need to hold back and take as much as you can. And of it." After he finished speaking, Zhuowen and the other two entered the tunnel. Then, the three of them began to plunder the refining crystal jade on both sides of the tunnel, like a whirlwind sweeping away clouds. Looking at the expressions of Zhuowen and the other two, Priest Qiushui could faintly guess that this green crystal jade was somewhat extraordinary. However, she didn't take it to heart. In the eyes of the lost tribe, the green crystal jade's main function was to provide energy for the formation. Apart from that, it didn't have many other uses. Moreover, the one thing that their sandstone island didn't lack was green crystal jade veins. Therefore, she didn't pay much attention to it. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Zhuowen and the other two moved forward in the tunnel. They frantically stripped the refining crystal jade on both sides of the tunnel and threw them into their Qingquan bags. The three of them walked for nearly 100 meters. The refining crystal jade along the way had basically been plundered by the three of them. However, the tunnel seemed to be endless. They still couldn't see the end of the tunnel. "Our Qingquan bags are full. We can't hold any more refining crystal jade." Suddenly Gu Xian and Hu Wuing stopped abruptly. They looked at the tunnel and the many refining crystal jades that were still very deep. Their faces were full of regret. In addition to regret, the two of them were more ecstatic. After all, their Qingquan bags were only intermediate-level Qingquan bags. The storage space was much smaller than that of advanced-level Qingquan bags. Even so, the value of the refining crystal jades that filled their intermediate-level Qingquan bags had far exceeded the foundation of an intermediate-level city. Even if they returned in defeat from the Vitality Tower, the two of them could completely turn Rattan Armor City, which was originally a low-level city, into an intermediate-level city by relying on the refining crystal jades in their Qingquan bags. In that case, you should leave the tunnel first. I still have some storage space in my Qingquan bag. I should be able to store some more refining crystal jades. Zhuowen nodded slightly. After saying this, he once again rushed into the depths of the tunnel. Gu Xian and Hu Wuing didn't argue. They nodded and happily returned to the entrance of the tunnel. The refining crystal jades that the two of them had obtained were an extremely generous sum of money for them. After advancing another 500 meters in the tunnel, the advanced level Qingquan bag on Zhuowen's waist was almost full. Therefore, Zhuowen stopped in a timely manner. Looking at the seemingly endless tunnel in front of him, Zhuowen rubbed his chin and said with some surprise, "This tunnel is really deep. I've already advanced nearly 1,000 meters, but I still haven't reached the end. I really don't know where the end of this tunnel leads to. Kid, don't go any deeper. The depths of this tunnel are very dangerous. This dragon lord has a premonition that if you go any further, I'm afraid that we'll all be finished." Suddenly, Xiao Hei's solemn voice sounded in his mind. Hearing this, Zhuowen was shocked. This was the first time that he had seen Xiao Hei so solemn. It seemed that this tunnel was really unusual. "Can you sense what's in the depths of this tunnel? Could it be that some powerful creature is sealed in there?" Zhuowen asked curiously. "I don't know either. Earlier, this dragon lord had already probed the depths of the tunnel with my divine sense. However, just as I was about to reach the bottom of the tunnel, This Dragon Lord's divine sense was actually crushed by an extremely powerful force. That force isn't something that a living creature can possess. It's very likely that it's a naturally formed trap. This kind of trap is the most dangerous. Even a saint would be in danger if they entered. Xiaohei said solemnly. A naturally formed trap? Zhuowen muttered in a low voice. He could feel the intense fear in Xiaohei's voice. In that case, let's leave this tunnel. Anyway, my Qingquan bag is already filled with refined crystal jades. It's not worth it if we go any deeper. After taking a deep look at the depths of the tunnel, Zhuowen took a step back and went back the way he came. After about a quarter of an hour, Zhuowen returned to the entrance of the tunnel. Gu Xian, Hu Wuying and Priestess Qiushui were all waiting for him at the entrance. Brother Zhua, you have the most bountiful harvest this time. If I had known that I would encounter so many refined crystal jades in here, I would have steeled my heart and bought a high-grade Qingquan bag. Gu Xian looked at the bulging Qingquan bag on Zhuowen's waist with envy. Are you still not satisfied? The amount of refined crystal jades in your middle-grade Qingquan bag has already far exceeded the resources of an ordinary middle-grade city. Zhuowen rolled his eyes and joked. They chatted for a while more before Priestess Qiushui led them back to the surface. Then the group of 4 directly entered the Qingshui tribe. In the center of the Qingshui tribe was a huge hall. At this moment, Zhuowen, Gu Xian, Hu Wuying, and Priestess Qiushui were all in the hall. In addition, the 3 high priests and the 5 elders were also in the hall. However, the 3 high priests and the 5 elders were clearly a little reserved. They looked at Zhuowen's figure with great respect. After all, the young man in front of them possessed strength that far exceeded that of an evil creature. With such an expert standing in front of them, it was natural for them to be quite nervous. 5 elders, prepare the space-time array. These are the green crystal jades we just obtained from the sealed place. Quickly set up the array. Priestess Qiushui took out 5 refined crystal jades and handed them to the 5 elders. As you command. After taking the 5 refined crystal jades, the 5 elders hurriedly came to the center of the hall. On the ground in the center, there was a large array that was several feet in size. The array was engraved with cryptic characters and patterns. This array was the only space-time array in the Qingshui tribe. The 5 elders were arranged in 5 different directions of the array. The refined crystal jades in their hands were placed in each corner of the array. Then, the 5 elders began to chant. At the same time, the 5 elders extended their right fingers and pressed them against the surface of the refined crystal jades in front of them. Immediately, Zhuowen felt the energy within the refined crystal jades being stimulated. Sizzle! Sizzle! The 5 refined crystal jades suddenly released clusters of flames. They were like 5 fire dragons that surrounded the array. At the same time, the originally dim array completely lit up. Finally, a white light pillar appeared above the array. Young Master Zhua, the space-time array has been activated. Let's go in now. Priestess Qiushui smiled at Zhuowen. Nodding slightly, Zhuowen and the other 2 looked at each other. Without hesitation, they stepped into the space-time array. Priestess Qiushui took a deep look at the hall before following Zhuowen and the other 2 into the array. Whoosh! The light beam flashed, and the figures of the 4 disappeared into the light beam. When the light beam dissipated, the space-time array was empty. At the same time, on the other side of the Sandstone Island, there was an oasis tens of thousands of miles away from the sanctuary. This oasis was several times larger than the Qingshui tribe. The tribesmen in the tribe were all abnormally strong. This tribe was called the Tiger Fang tribe. It was the tribe closest to the sanctuary. Normally, when other tribes used the space-time array to go to the sanctuary, they would first arrive at the Tiger Fang tribe, and then take the flying ship to the sanctuary. The Tiger Fang tribe was extremely powerful and wealthy. There were more than 10 space-time arrays in the tribe. Just from this point alone, one could see that the Tiger Fang tribe was far more powerful than the Qingshui tribe. Chapter 373. Tiger Fang tribe. This is the tribe closest to the sanctuary. It's called the Tiger Fang tribe. It's one of the strongest tribes on the entire Sandstone Island. Usually, when people from other tribes want to go to the sanctuary through a space-time formation, They would first go through the Tiger Fong tribe's space-time formation, before taking the ascension ship to the sanctuary. After the four of them stepped out of the space-time formation, Priest Qiushui introduced the tribe to Zhuowen. Hearing that, Zhuowen and the other two nodded. At the same time, they began to size up the Tiger Fong tribe outside the space-time formation. The Tiger Fong tribe did look much bigger than the Clearwater tribe. Moreover, many of the people walking around were bronze warriors. On the Sandstone Island, it was actually very easy to identify a warrior's rank. This was because warriors of the corresponding rank would have a badge on their chest. Bronze warriors had bronze badges, silver warriors had silver badges, and gold warriors naturally had gold badges. These badges represented a warrior's glory and strength. Therefore, warriors with ranks on the Sandstone Island would wear the corresponding badge on their chest. Seeing that many of the people walking around were bronze warriors, Zhuowen was slightly surprised. It seemed that the Tiger Fong tribe was indeed much stronger than the Clearwater tribe. After all, the Clearwater tribe only had one bronze warrior, and that was the strongest in the Clearwater tribe, Amir. On the other hand, a bronze warrior like Amir was rather mediocre in the Tiger Fong tribe. More people are coming out. Looks like there's more to be gained. The bronze warriors guarding the two sides of the space-time formation looked at each other and smiled when they saw that four people had come out of the space-time formation. As they spoke, the two bronze warriors came in front of Zhuowen and the other three. They stretched out their hands naturally and said, "You know the rules. You have to pay a fee to use the space-time formation of our Tiger Fong tribe. 250 crystals per person. There are four of you. Hand over 1,000 crystals." Looking at the two bronze warriors in front of him, Zhuowen was startled. He didn't think that he would need to hand over the so-called crystal stones when he came to the Tiger Fong tribe. It was obvious that the crystal stones were the common currency of the Sandstone Island. However, Zhuowen and the others had never even seen the crystal stones before. So how could they have the so-called crystal stones? Right when Zhuowen's group of three were hesitating, Priest Autumn Water slowly walked forward and took out a bulging deerskin pouch and said, "Two little brothers. There are 1,000 crystals in here. You can count them." The two bronze warriors stared at the deerskin pouch in Priest Qiushui's hands and grabbed it. They couldn't wait to open the pouch and check the crystal stones inside. After checking, the two of them revealed a trace of joy and said with a relaxed expression, "Yes, it is indeed 1,000 crystal stones. Since you have paid the fee, you can walk freely in our Tiger Fong tribe. Even if you leave now and head to the sacred region, no one will stop you. Priest Autumn Water, I owe you a favor." Cupping his hands, Zhuowen said seriously. However, in his heart, he was glad that he brought Priest Autumn Water along. It was the right decision. "Young Master Zhuo is too polite. Compared to the contributions you've made, Qiushui's contribution is insignificant. Alright, after paying the fee, we can leave the Tiger Fong tribe and head to the sacred region." Priest Autumn Water said with a smile. Zhuowen also nodded. Just as he was about to leave, there was a sudden commotion around them. Immediately, Zhuowen and the others felt that the surrounding atmosphere had become a little tense. The two bronze warriors guarding the space-time array lowered their heads slightly and looked behind Zhuowen and the others with a respectful expression. Clear and orderly footsteps slowly came from behind. Zhuowen and the other three turned their heads to look, and just happened to see a vigorous young man slowly walking towards them with a team. The young man's face was full of high spirits and arrogance. "I didn't think that the young chief would actually come out to patrol today. This is quite rare. Maybe it's a whim. The young chief's talent is extremely high, and the chief is extremely strict with him. He rarely lets the young chief do a job like patrolling." The two guards standing in front of Zhuowen and the others whispered to each other. This also let Zhuowen and the others know the identity of the young man who led the team in high spirits. However, what made Zhuowen feel strange was that the young chief looked to be in his 20s, but the emblem on his chest was actually a silver emblem. Clearly, this young man was a genuine silver warrior with strength of over 100,000 kilograms. At the same time, what Zhuowen didn't notice was that Priest Autumn Water, who was standing behind him, had her hands clasped together. Her eyes faintly revealed a trace of nervousness as she stared at the young man in front of her. The young man completely ignored the respectful gazes of the surrounding tribesmen. Instead, the corner of his mouth was brimming with a smile. He actually walked towards Zhuowen and laughed heartily. "Autumn Water, you didn't even inform me that you were coming to the Tiger Fang tribe." Arriving in front of Zhuowen and the others, the young man directly ignored Zhuowen and the other two beside Priest Autumn Water. Instead, he stared at Priest Autumn Water with a burning gaze. His face was filled with joy and excitement. Priest Autumn Water's delicate body trembled slightly. She involuntarily moved closer to Zhuowen and frowned slightly. "How did you know that I would come to the sacred region? Did Elder Qianshui tell you?" Elder Qianshui was the only female elder of the 5 elders in the Qingshui tribe. She was the old woman with a head full of silver hair. Elder Qianshui had always advocated for a marriage alliance between the Qingshui tribe and the Tiger Fang tribe. After all, the Tiger Fang tribe was an extremely powerful tribe. With such a tie, it would be difficult for the Qingshui tribe not to develop. Moreover, it just so happened that the young chief of the Tiger Fang tribe was extremely fond of Priest Autumn Water. The marriage alliance between the two tribes was completely possible. However, Priest Autumn Water didn't really like the young chief of the Tiger Fang tribe. The name of the young chief of the Tiger Fang tribe was Yanhu. He was an extremely outstanding genius. At the age of 21, he had already reached the level of a silver warrior. In the future, he would inherit the entire Tiger Fang tribe. Logically speaking, Yanhu's talent was good, and his appearance wasn't bad. It wouldn't be bad for Priest Autumn Water to marry the former. However, Yanhu's reputation wasn't too good. He had played with many young girls, and there were even some girls who were directly tortured to death. Therefore, Priest Autumn Water didn't like Yanhu at all. Yanhu grinned and said, "Since you've already guessed it, I don't want to say any more. I think you also understand my intentions. Even the 5 elders of your Qingshui tribe have agreed to the marriage alliance between our two tribes. Don't tell me you won't consider it? Moreover, with the strength of our Tiger Fang tribe, once our two tribes have a marriage alliance, the strength of your Qingshui tribe will increase by a lot. This is a good thing that can satisfy both sides. I think you don't have to reject it, Autumn Water," Yanhu said with a proud smile. Priest Autumn Water coldly smiled and said, "If you can swear in the holy city's Parthenon temple that once our two tribes have a marriage alliance, your Tiger Fang tribe will definitely support our Qingshui tribe with all your strength. If that's the case, then I'll agree to the marriage alliance. Otherwise, don't even think about it." Hearing this, Yanhu's expression instantly changed. Actually, the reason why he wanted to have a marriage alliance with the Qingshui tribe was mainly because of Priest Autumn Water's appearance. In the entire Sandstone Island, Priest Autumn Water's appearance could be considered top-notch. Especially that trace of charm that faintly revealed. It was always able to evoke the evil fire in Yanhu's heart. He couldn't wait to directly press her down and ravage her. Yanhu's original goal was to use the marriage alliance as an excuse to have some fun with Priest Autumn Water. Once he got tired of playing with her, he would naturally abandon her like grass. In the end, this so-called marriage alliance would only be an empty promise. In the past, Yanhu had used the marriage alliance as an excuse to deceive many priestesses of small tribes. After all, their Tiger Fang tribe was really too prosperous. There were countless small tribes that wanted to rely on their Tiger Fang tribe. Therefore, Yanhu took advantage of this loophole and played with many priestesses. However, this Priest Autumn Water before him was very smart. She proposed that if he wanted to have a marriage alliance with her, then he would have to swear in front of the Parthenon temple that he would wholeheartedly support their Qingshui tribe. This way, Yanhu wouldn't be able to take advantage of this loophole. The Parthenon temple was the core of the holy city. It was said that it contained a strange energy. If you didn't fulfill your oath, then it was said that you would be punished by the heavens. This was the temple's punishment for those who broke their oath. This was also the reason why Yanhu's expression changed greatly. If he really swore in front of the Parthenon temple, then he definitely couldn't break his oath. He could only wholeheartedly support the Qingshui tribe. Naturally, Yanhu wouldn't do such a thankless task. Priest Autumn Water. It seems like you're refusing a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Now that you're in my Tiger Fong tribe, do you think you can still escape from my grasp? Originally, I wanted to talk nicely with you, but since you don't appreciate it, then don't blame me. Yenhu's expression darkened. The corners of his mouth revealed a trace of malevolence. He gestured to the troops behind him with his mouth and said, "Capture this woman for me." The guards behind Yenhu suddenly raised their weapons and surrounded Zhuowen's group of 4. Priest Autumn Water's expression changed greatly. She pointed at Yenhu and said, "Yenhu, do you still have any respect for the law?" "Ridiculous. In the Tiger Fong tribe I am the law. You still want to discuss the law with me?" Hee. After chuckling, Yenhu indifferently glanced at Zhuowen, who was beside Priest Autumn Water. "Kid, get out of my way, or else I can't guarantee your safety. I'll also give you a chance. Either you let us go, or you die," Zhuowen coldly said as he indifferently looked at Yenhu. Originally, Zhuowen didn't want to cause any trouble, but this trouble came looking for him. Naturally, Zhuowen wouldn't shrink back in the slightest. Yenhu narrowed his eyes and coldly said, "You really have guts. With your skinny arms and legs, you want to be a hero and save the damsel in distress? You're simply courting death. Kill the 3 of them, and leave the woman alive." "Yes." Chapter 374. Legendary Warrior Bang Bang Bang. The muffled sound of fists hitting flesh suddenly rang out. Soon after, a series of miserable screams resounded. The dozen or so bronze warriors that had originally surrounded Zhuowen's group of 4 were actually sent flying in all directions in an instant. They landed over 10 meters away before violently smashing into the ground. Seeing the dozen or so guards being knocked down in an instant, the surrounding onlookers and the sneering Yenhu couldn't help but be stunned. "Brother Zhuo, you don't have to deal with these small fries, the 2 of us are enough." Brother Gu Xian is right. You've been risking your life all this time. The 2 of us should also contribute a little. Leave the small fries to us." Gu Xian and Hu Wuying, who were beside him, clenched their fists and slowly walked out to stand in front of Zhuowen. The dozen or so guards were naturally taken down by the 2 of them. Gu Xian was a warrior at the Great Circle of the Earth King realm, while Hu Wuying was slightly weaker, only at the Great Circle of the Earth King realm. Even so, the 2 of them were stronger than many of the powerful silver warriors on the Sandstone Island. Perhaps only some silver warriors with a strength of 300,000 jin could match the 2 of them. In front of the 2 of them, the bronze warriors were indeed like small fries, unable to withstand a single blow. "Take care of that small fries over there as well. With your strength, you should be able to take care of that so-called young clan leader in a few moves." Nodding slightly, Zhuowen pointed at Yenhu and said, "Hee. Although Lord Lu Nantian said that we are not allowed to kill the ancient survivors in the Origin Energy Tower, it should be fine to just cripple him." "Brother Hu, let me have this guy," Gu Xian said with a grin. Hu Wuying hesitated for a moment, then nodded in agreement and said indifferently, "Just cripple his limbs, don't kill him." "Don't worry, I know what I'm doing." Gu Xian nodded. Hearing Gu Xian and Hu Wuying talking back and forth, Yenhu's eyes immediately darkened. He roared angrily, "Damn it! These 2 bastards! Did they really think they were so great just because they defeated the bronze warrior? Watch as this young master cripples the both of you." Boom! As he spoke, Yenhu let out a furious roar. With a stomp of his foot, he directly charged towards Gu Xian, who was the closest to him. His fist ferociously smashed towards Gu Xian's face. The powerful force even tore through the air, emitting an ear-piercing sound. Yenhu was very tall, at least 2 meters tall. Coupled with his extremely tall and sturdy body, he was almost a head taller than Gu Xian. His aura was many times stronger than Gu Xian's. Gu Xian's gaze was unusually calm from start to finish. He raised his hand slightly and gently extended it. Like a nimble snake, he instantly pinched Yenhu's imposing fist. "Cripple me? Perhaps you don't have the qualifications." The corner of Gu Xian's mouth slightly curled. Yuan power suddenly burst forth from his right hand, and an extremely powerful force was suddenly released. With a cracking sound, an extremely clear sound rang out. following which, Yenhu's right hand actually bent irregularly. Ah! A mournful scream suddenly rang out. Yenhu's forehead was filled with sweat, and his face was filled with pain. However, his eyes were filled with disbelief. He did not expect that Gu Xian, who looked rather thin and weak, would actually cripple his right hand with just one move. Without waiting for Yenhu to regain his senses, Gu Xian's hands were like lightning, and very cleanly crippled Yenhu's 4 limbs. Plop! Yenhu fell face first onto the ground. His mournful screams endlessly rang out, causing one's hair to stand on end. Young clan leader. The dozen guards who were originally sent flying by Gu Xian, and Gu Xian hurriedly came to Yenhu's side and helped him up. However, their faces were filled with intense fear. Where did these people in front of them come from? They actually crippled their Tiger Fang tribe's young clan leader with just one move. One must know that their young clan leader was a silver warrior. Looking at the crippled Yenhu, Zhuowen shook his head. This Yenhu was simply reaping what he sowed. He said indifferently, "Let's go." As he spoke, Zhuowen took out Qing Fan boat from his Qingquan bag. The 4 of them entered Qing Fan boat one after another. With a whoosh, Qing Fan boat shot out like an arrow towards the sanctuary. In the Tiger Fang tribe, the onlookers could only stare blankly at the departing Qing Fan boat, and the crippled Yenhu not far away. Looks like the young clan leader kicked an iron plate. These people are not to be trifled with. The 2 people who attacked just now are very strong. To be able to cripple the young clan leader with just one move, they are at least high silver warriors. Didn't you see the conversation between the 2 people who attacked? It seems like the 2 of them are led by the youngest one. I'm afraid that the youngest one is the most terrifying existence among the 3. It can't be. That young man looks to be around 18 years old. If he is stronger than the 2 who attacked just now, wouldn't he be a peak silver warrior? For a moment, everyone in the Tiger Fang tribe was discussing animatedly. They knew that someone who was able to cripple Yenhu in one move would definitely not be weaker than their patriarch. Perhaps this time, the arrogant and despotic young patriarch would really have to suffer in silence. Whoosh! Thousands of miles up in the sky, a green flying boat flew past. On the deck of the flying boat, there were 4 figures, 3 males and 1 female. It was Zhuowen's group of 4 who rowed Qing Fan boat to the sanctuary. Although the Tiger Fang tribe is the closest tribe to the sanctuary, it is still tens of thousands of miles away. If we want to reach the sanctuary, I'm afraid we will need 2 days. On the deck, Priest Qiushui said. Slightly nodding, Zhuowen's eyes revealed a trace of anticipation. He could feel that the control center of the Sandstone Island was definitely in the sanctuary's holy city. If he could guess the location of the control center, the representatives of the other cities would also be able to guess it. He knew that there would be a fierce battle in the holy city. Priest Qiushui, is there a strange place in the holy city? Or should I say a different place? Suddenly, Zhuowen tilted his head and looked at Priest Qiushui. Priest Qiushui had once told him that the holy city covered a large area, and there were many buildings inside. Looking for the so-called control center of the island, in such a huge city, was like looking for a needle in a haystack. Therefore, he guessed that the control center was definitely in a special place. Special place? Priest Qiushui was stunned when she heard this. After pondering for a while, she said, "If you want a special place, it should be the Parthenon Temple." Oh, the Parthenon Temple? Zhuowen's eyes flickered. Priest Qiushui of the Parthenon Temple had mentioned it when she was arguing with Yenhu. He immediately asked, "Can you tell me what's so special about the Parthenon Temple?" Priest Qiushui nodded and said, "Actually, the origin of the holy city is very long. It is said that when the Sandstone Island was first formed, the holy city was already located in the center of the Sandstone Island. In those ancient times, evil creatures almost covered the entire Sandstone Island. They called themselves the Netherworld race and hunted our vestigial race. At that time, it was because of the holy city that our vestigial race was not completely wiped out. Later on, an amazing hero appeared in our vestigial race. His name was Alice. He was the only warrior who had reached the legendary rank since ancient times. After Alice became a legendary warrior, he took control of the holy city and became the lord of the holy city. Later on, he borrowed the power of the holy city to seal all the evil creatures on the Sandstone Island. It was because of the rise of Alice that our vestigial race could become the masters of this Sandstone Island. Unfortunately, after getting rid of the evil creatures, Lord Alice mysteriously disappeared. No one knows where he went. However, when Lord Alice left, he left behind a huge temple. That is the Parthenon Temple of the Holy City. Before he left, Lord Alice spread the word that whoever could pass all the tests of the Parthenon Temple would become the true Lord of the Holy City and wield the ultimate power of the Holy City. From there, they would be able to exert endless power. Since then, the Parthenon Temple has become a sacred place in the hearts of all our vestigial race. At this point, Priest Chioshue's beautiful eyes were filled with deep reverence. Obviously, the Lord Alice she spoke of held a very high position in her heart. However, Zhuowen was indeed a little surprised. He really did not expect that a legendary warrior could appear on this small sandstone island. That was a terrifying existence whose strength alone reached more than 1,000,000 jin. With such tremendous strength, it would only take one punch to seriously injure Zhuowen. You said that Alice once spread the word that anyone who passed all the tests of the Parthenon Temple would become the true Lord of the Holy City. Then, did the Lord of the Holy City, you speak of, pass the tests of the Parthenon Temple? Zhuowen asked rather doubtfully. To his surprise, Priest Chioshue shook her head and said, "The current Lord of the Holy City is called Ados. He is a descendant of Lord Alice. Although Lord Ados is a golden warrior and is very powerful, he did not pass the tests of the Parthenon Temple. However, he is now the strongest person on the Sandstone Island. In addition, he is a descendant of Lord Alice, so we call him the Lord of the Holy City. In fact, Lord Ados does not control the power of the Holy City." Hearing this, Zhuowen's eyes suddenly narrowed, and the corners of his mouth curled up. He knew that the control center that Lu Nantian was talking about was the power of the Holy City that Alice had mentioned. If he could control the power of the Holy City, he should be able to control the entire Sandstone Island and break through to the second floor. Boom! Just as Zhuowen was a little absent-minded, a violent roar suddenly rang out. Immediately after, Zhuowen and the other two were shocked to discover that in the sky far away, a vast and boundless island was slowly rising like the rising sun. The entire endless ocean was boiling because of the island's ascension. Huge water pillars soared into the sky like water dragons, erupting into extremely beautiful splashes in the sky far away. It's only been 2 days, and someone has already seized the control center of the island. Chapter 375. Reaching the Saint Domain on the first floor of the Yuanqi Tower, all the representatives of the other cities on the islands of the endless ocean raised their heads to look at the huge island in the sky that seemed to blot out the sun. Everyone's eyes were filled with deep shock. The Origen-Chi Tower had only been opened for a short period of time, but someone had already taken the lead to seize control of the island and open the passage to the second floor. This really surprised many people. Chi-Chi. At the same time, a huge light screen appeared in the void again. At this time, the name of the island and the team that had passed the first floor was displayed in the first position of the light screen. Treasure Island Pass, House of Marquis Qin. Looking at the golden words on the first position of the light screen, Zhuowen and the other two revealed a look of understanding. The House of Marquis Qin's team had many Ultimate Emperor Realm experts. Among them, LVE Tao was a monster ranked 15th on the Azure Emperor list. Although Zhuowen and the other two were a little surprised that they were able to pass so quickly, they didn't show too much emotion. As expected of the House of Marquis Qin, they were actually able to seize control of the island and reach the second floor so quickly. The House of Marquis Qin is too strong. If there are no accidents, the House of Marquis Qin will probably take first place in this Origen-Chi Tower battle. Gu Xian and Hu Wuying looked at the words on the light screen with surprise, their voices filled with strong envy. Zhuowen, on the other hand, was silent. He just narrowed his eyes and stared at the huge island that was gradually getting farther and farther away. At the same time, Zhuowen also noticed that priest Qiu Shui, who was standing beside him, didn't seem to have the slightest feeling about the roar just now. She didn't even notice the huge island that was rising in the distance. It seemed that the vestigial clan living on the island couldn't discover what was happening outside the island. This phenomenon was probably caused by Lu Nantian. Compared to the commotion inside the tower, it was even noisier outside the tower. When Treasure Island was the first to enter the second floor, many of the city lords in the 4 squares outside the tower were shocked. Although they knew that the Muqin Marquis estate had a monstrous existence like Lve Tao, and would definitely obtain first place in the Origin Energy Tower. What shocked them was that the time taken by the Muqin Marquis estate's team was a little too short. Only 2 days had passed, yet they had already smoothly broken through the first level of the Origin Energy Tower. Looking at the golden house of Marquis Qin on the light screen, the corners of Lu Nanshan's mouth involuntarily curled up into a smile. Clearly, as the owner of the house of Marquis Qin, he was quite proud of the fact that the house of Marquis Qin's team could enter the second level so quickly. Marquis Lu, with a monstrous genius like Lve Tao, your house of Marquis Qin should have no problem winning the Origin Qi Tower this time. Originally, I thought that with the rapid progress of the falling star in the past few years, he would be able to compete with your house of Marquis Qin. Now that I think about it, I'm afraid it was simply a fool's dream. The master of the meteorite said with a bit of jealousy, "There's no need to be so calculative. Your Jade Lady Star Court's strength is also not bad. You don't need to belittle yourself." Lve Nantian said rather modestly. However, the smile that involuntarily appeared on his face completely betrayed his current mood. The other powerful figures on the platform didn't speak. They just stared at the light screen with a dignified expression. They were very clear about the gap between them and the house of Marquis Qin, so they didn't ask for a rebuff by competing with Lu Nantian. On the Sandstone Island, after the Treasure Island had completely broken through the void and left the first layer, Zhuowen and the other 2 slowly withdrew their gazes. Soon we will arrive at the Sacred Realm. At that time, the other 4 advanced cities will also gather in the Sacred City. We need to be careful. There are still 2 days of travel. We can't slack off. We need to improve our strength as much as possible. Zhuowen glanced at Gu Xian, and Hu Wuying said a few words, and then entered the inner cabin of the Qing Fan boat. The Qing Fan boat was very big. There were many rooms in the inner cabin. Zhuowen randomly chose a room and sat cross-legged on the boat. After the qi in his body had completely stabilized, Zhuowen took out a flame-like jade from his Qingquan bag. It was the refined crystal jade. Of the 4 high-grade cities on the Sandstone Island, the 2 teams from Azure Dragon City and Jeju City are much weaker. They are only ranked below average among the high-grade cities. However, 9 Dragons City and Thunder Universe City are somewhat terrifying. Especially 9 Dragon City. It is said that they have 3 half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm experts, the strongest of which can break through to the Ultimate Emperor Realm at any time. His strength is probably not weaker than an ordinary Ultimate Emperor Realm expert. Looking at the refined crystal jade in his hand, Zhuowen couldn't help but recall the information regarding 9 Dragons City. At that time, Guyu Tian had spent a lot of effort on the information regarding these cities, in order to know oneself as well as the enemy. Therefore, Zhuowen knew that there were many extremely strong team representatives that he needed to pay attention to, and this 9 Dragons City was specifically mentioned by Guyu Tian. 9 Dragon City's team has 3 half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm experts, one of which is comparable to an Ultimate Emperor Realm expert. 9 Dragon City should be the most difficult to deal with. If it was a one-on-one battle, I wouldn't be afraid. However, if the 3 half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm experts from 9 Dragon City attack together, even I might not be able to deal with them. Zhuowen frowned as he muttered to himself, "Kid, you have enough refined crystal jades now. You can definitely cultivate the jade body tempering technique to the 7th level. At that time, your physical strength will be comparable to a peak Ultimate Emperor Realm expert, and your strength will far surpass that of Otto's. At that time, you won't need to fear 9 Dragon City's team at all." Xiaohei's voice suddenly sounded in his mind. Nodding slightly, Zhuowen muttered, "Of course I know that. However, I only have 2 days. Even if I have refined crystal jades, I'm afraid that I won't be able to cultivate the jade body tempering technique to the 7th level in 2 days. You should cultivate first. Refined crystal jades have the effect of tempering the body. Under the effects of refined crystal jades, even if it's only 2 days, the quality of your physical body will increase by a lot." Xiaohei said somewhat helplessly. "That's true. I just don't know if the effects of refined crystal jades are as obvious as described in the jade body tempering technique." After muttering to himself for a while, Zhuowen locked his gaze onto the refined crystal jades in his palm. Taking a deep breath, he urged the yuan power in his body to drill into the flame-like jades. Sizzle! The sound of something burning suddenly rang out. Under the guidance of the yuan power, the refined crystal jades in Zhuowen's palm actually emitted an extremely hot aura. Following which, a dense red flame burst out from the refined crystal jades and enveloped Zhuowen's entire body. The blazing high temperature directly burned Zhuowen's body. Under the scorching heat, Zhuowen's skin actually began to become extremely charred, and his flesh began to curl up. Looking at the faint signs of his skin being charred, Zhuowen could not help but be shocked. He hurriedly urged the jade body tempering technique, and the charred surface of his skin was immediately dispelled. His skin emitted a jade-like luster. This refined crystal jades is really extraordinary. The temperature contained within it is so high. If I don't use the jade body tempering technique, even I will find it difficult to withstand such high temperature. Looking around at the surrounding flames, Zhuowen's eyes revealed a trace of surprise. He could feel that although the temperature of these flames was almost comparable to that of an earth-grade flame, there was not a trace of invasion or destruction. Instead, it seemed to be extremely gentle. Seeing the flames emitted by the refined crystal jades, Zhuowen finally understood why the refined crystal jades were the most suitable for tempering the body. Such gentle flames could gradually promote the body to continuously adapt to the high temperature and achieve the effect of tempering the body. The human body was extremely fragile. If it was not tempered properly, it could easily collapse. Even if Zhuowen practiced the jade body tempering technique, he did not dare to use a barbaric energy like the earth fire to temper his body. This was because the earth fire was too destructive. Even with Zhuowen's current body, it was difficult for him to withstand the destructive power of the earth fire. However, the flames in the refined crystal jades did not have this concern at all. These flames had the scorching heat of the earth fire, but did not have the destructive power of the earth fire. Instead, they were very gentle and were the most suitable for tempering the body. The effect of one refined crystal jades is not that obvious. It seems that I need to add another one. Although the surrounding flames were extremely hot, Zhuowen, who had used the jade body tempering technique, did not feel much. Therefore, he took out another refined crystal jades from his Qingquan bag. Sizzle! All of a sudden, the originally inconspicuous flame suddenly became several times more vigorous, and the temperature in the room also rose to an extremely exaggerated level. It was as if the room Zhuowen was in had become a furnace for alchemy. As he felt the surrounding temperature increase once again, Zhuowen nodded his head in satisfaction. Soon after, he closed his eyes and began to silently circulate the jade stone body tempering skill under this high temperature, using the surrounding high temperature to continuously temper his body. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, 2 days had passed. During these 2 days, many things had happened. Since the house of Marquis Qin successfully seized the treasure island 2 days ago and broke through the void to enter the second layer, the remaining 4 super forces did not want to be outdone and succeeded in seizing the islands one after another. Ranked from 2nd to 5th were Jade Lady Star Court, Marquis Baichuan, Marquis Yongsheng, and Imperial Sword Sect. In addition to these 4 super forces, some of the more powerful super cities had also entered the second layer within 2 days. In these 2 days, nearly 100 islands had successfully ascended. A huge and vast oasis slowly emerged in the distance. That oasis was the sacred realm of the lost race. In the center of the sacred realm, a sacred city stood alone like a coiling dragon. It looked proud, aloof, and had experienced the vicissitudes of life. Whoosh! A green airship flashed across the sky and headed straight for the sacred realm. On the deck of the green airship, Gu Exan, Hu Wuying, and Priestess Chivu looked at the oasis in the distance with joyful smiles on their faces. Chapter 376. Encounter. As they approached the sacred region, Priest Chiushui's beautiful eyes flashed as she said, "The sacred region is shrouded in a force that restricts flight, so we can't directly enter by flying boat. We have to get off the boat." Gu Exan and Hu Wuying were a little surprised, but they didn't ask any questions. "Wuying, you control the airship to land. I'll call Brother Zhua." Gu Exan instructed Hu Wuying and entered the airship's cabin. He quickly found Zhuan's room. What surprised Gu Exan was that when he approached Zhuan's room, he could faintly feel a trace of heat. The closer he got to Zhuan's room, the more intense it became. When he arrived at the door of Zhuan's room, the blazing aura had almost reached its peak. The scorching heat even caused Gu Exan's breathing to quicken, and the skin on the surface of his skin began to curl up. This somewhat oppressive feeling immediately caused Gu Exan to be extremely shocked. What is Zhuan doing in his room? Why is it emitting such a high temperature? I can't stand it even if I'm outside the room. Gu Exan's face was solemn as he thought to himself. Dong! Dong! Someone knocked on the door. Enduring the high temperature, Gu Exan said in a deep voice, "Brother Zhua, we've arrived at the sanctuary. We should get off the airship." After a while, a clear voice sounded in the room. "Okay, got it. I'll go to the deck immediately." Hearing the voice in the room, Gu Exan heaved a sigh of relief. The sudden high temperature in Zhuan's room really scared Gu Exan. He thought something bad had happened to Zhuan. Now that he heard Zhuan's voice, he relaxed. At the same time, a sliver of shock flashed through Gu Exan's heart. The scorching aura he sensed clearly came from Zhuan's room. Even when he was outside the room, he felt his chest tighten and his breathing become ragged, let alone the temperature in the room. It was definitely much hotter than outside. Zhuan's voice was full of energy just now. It was clear that he wasn't affected by the heat at all. This made Gu Exan respect Zhuan even more. At the same time, he felt even more complicated. The young man who was weaker than him in the past had now left him far behind. Looking at the room with a complicated look, Gu Exan quickly left the inner cabin and returned to the deck. At this moment, the room was already filled with a rich fiery red color. It was clusters of flames that were constantly burning, almost covering the entire room. On the bed near the corner of the room, a topless young man slowly opened his eyes. The young man's naked upper body had a jade-like luster. The surrounding blazing flames didn't have the slightest effect on him. Instead, the young man twisted his neck as if nothing had happened and stood up. 2 days is really too short. Even if I use 3 quenching crystal jades to release the quenching fire at the same time to temper my body, I still haven't reached the 7th level of the jade body tempering technique! Reaching out his right hand, Zhuan gently squeezed it. The surrounding flames immediately gathered in his hand and condensed into 3 flame-shaped quenching crystal jades in his palm. However, the color of these 3 quenching crystal jades had become rather dim. Obviously, Zhuan's continuous use over the past 2 days had caused the flame energy within the quenching crystal jades to become thinner and thinner. Although you haven't successfully entered the 7th level of the jade body tempering technique, your current physical strength has increased by about 30%. I'm afraid you're not far from the 7th level of the jade body tempering technique. Now, even if you meet Lu Yuanhua again, you won't be suppressed by him, even if you don't rely on the fire and ice lotus. Xiao Hei's voice slowly sounded in Yin Liqiang's mind. Lu Yuanhua has only just advanced to the ultimate emperor realm after all. His strength can't be considered strong. It's just that Lu Yongxing is quite troublesome. If we meet again in the Origin Qi Tower, I'm afraid that guy will really kill me. Narrowing his eyes, a trace of coldness flashed across Zhuan's face. Last time in the mortal stage loft, Lu Yongxing had almost killed him. If it weren't for Qiu Chou and Miss Qing Lian, Zhuan might have really died on the spot. Lu Yongxing is an ultimate Emperor Realm expert and a genius on the Azure Emperor rankings. I'm afraid that even if you cultivate the Jade Body Tempering technique to the 7th level, you still won't be a match for Lu Yongxing. If you meet him, you'll really be in trouble. Xiaohei suddenly gloated. It's not that early to meet Lu Yongxing. After all, the first 3 levels of the Origin Qi Tower are for the power rankings. The 4th level is for the individual rankings. If Lu Yongxing wants to make a move, he'll probably wait until I enter the 4th level. Zhuowen said with a sinister gaze. With that guy's arrogant personality, I'm afraid he won't think that you have the qualifications to enter the 4th level. Of course, he won't let you go just like that. Perhaps after the battle for the Origin Qi Tower ends, Lu Yongxing will find trouble with you. Even Rattan Armor City and the Zhuo family might be implicated. Xiaohei added fuel to the fire, wishing for the world to be in chaos. Zhuowen's expression was extremely calm as he said, "Don't worry. I'm still confident that I can enter the 4th level. Moreover, the Origin Qi in the Origin Qi Tower is so rich that it gives me a chance. As long as I advance to the ultimate Emperor realm, coupled with the power of the Jade Body Tempering technique and the 2 Saint Talismans, even if I can't defeat Lu Yongxing, it's still possible for me to survive." Alright. Right now, I'm not thinking about Lu Yongxing, but how to seize control of the Sandstone Island. Since we've arrived at the sacred region, I won't hand over control of the Sandstone Island. Whoosh! As he spoke, Zhuowen put on his clothes and walked out of the room to the deck. At this moment, Gu Xian and the other 2 on the deck also noticed Zhuowen. They nodded slightly at him and tried their best to control the Qing fan boat to land slowly. After nodding, Zhuowen looked through the deck and saw the huge oasis in the distance, as well as the huge city that looked like a coiling dragon in the middle of the oasis. Is that the holy city? It's really huge. Looking at the holy city in front of him, Zhuowen couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. The holy city's scale was much larger than Broken Rock City. Perhaps only a province could compare to it. Boom! At the same time, the Qing fan boat slowly descended from the sky and finally stopped at the edge of the sacred region. Then, the 4 of them walked down the Qing fan boat and looked at the lush green oasis in front of them. "The 3 of you, this is the edge of the sacred region. It's only about half a day's journey to the holy city in the center. We only need to walk there." After getting off the boat, Priest Qiushui said with a smile. Gu Xian and Hu Wuying looked at Zhuowen with excitement in their eyes. They knew that the control center of the Sandstone Island was in the holy city. This time, the teams entering the holy city would not only be limited to Rattan Armor City. When the time came, it would definitely be a fierce battle. Even Zhuowen's eyes were filled with hope. "Let's go. I hope that we're not too late." As he spoke, Zhuowen took the lead and entered the sacred region. Gu Xian and the other 2 followed closely behind. The sacred region was indeed the core of the Sandstone Island. Not long after entering the sacred region, Zhuowen's group of 4 met many vestigial clan members. These vestigial clan members were all talking and laughing. Moreover, their strength was not ordinary. Clearly, they were all preparing to enter the holy city. After walking for a few hours, the mundane rank token on Zhuowen's waist suddenly lit up. Zhuowen couldn't help but stop and frown as he looked at the mundane rank token on his waist. "What's wrong?" Gu Xian and the other 2 asked curiously when they saw Zhuowen stop. The mundane rank token's reaction is quite intense. "I'm afraid that there are teams from other cities nearby." Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and said in a low voice. Hearing this, Priest Qiushui was a little confused. However, Gu Xian and Hu Wuying's expressions changed drastically when they saw the abnormality of the token on Zhuowen's waist. They didn't expect to encounter teams from other cities as soon as they entered the sacred region. Teams from other cities participating in the Vitality Tower battle had their own identity token. This identity token not only indicated the identity of a team from a city, but also could detect the presence of teams from other cities within a certain range. If a team from another city was within the detection range of the identity token would light up. This was why Zhuowen and the other two's expressions were so solemn when they saw the identity token light up. I wonder what level the teams from the nearby cities are? Don't tell me we'll encounter a team from a high-level city right from the start. Gu Xian said rather gloomily. We shouldn't be that unlucky, right? Hu Wuing said somewhat nervously. After all, the two of them were born in a low-level city like Rotan Armor City. In their eyes, high-level cities were all high and mighty existences. Even if they knew that there was a powerhouse like Zhuowen by their side, there was always a trace of uncertainty in their hearts. Priest Qiushui, we still have some things to take care of. You should enter the sacred city first. It might be very dangerous later. If you get dragged into it, we'll be a little apologetic. Zhuowen suddenly turned his head and said seriously to Priest Qiushui. Zhuowen knew that if they met the teams from the unknown cities, a big battle would be unavoidable. If it was a low-level or mid-level city, Zhuowen wouldn't care so much. However, if it was a high-level city, then it would be a little troublesome. At that time, even Zhuowen would find it difficult to take care of Priest Qiushui. Priest Qiushui was startled when she heard this. However, after seeing the dignified expression on Zhuowen's face, she hesitated for a moment. In the end, she nodded and said, If that's the case, then I'll go to the sacred city first. I'll wait for you there. Priest Qiushui was a beautiful and intelligent woman. She was very clear about Zhuowen's strength. If he could make the former reveal a dignified expression, then it was likely that they would encounter big trouble ahead. She knew that with her meager strength, she would undoubtedly become a burden to Zhuowen. Therefore, she simply agreed to Zhuowen's suggestion. Looking at Priest Qiushui's gradually disappearing figure, Zhuowen also breathed a sigh of relief. Letting Priest Qiushui go first was undoubtedly the best choice at this time. Whoosh! At the same time, the token on Zhuowen's waist became even brighter. The light it emitted became particularly dazzling. The other party has also discovered us. Now they're rushing towards us. It seems that we have to prepare for battle. Chapter 377. Devil Iron City. Rustle, rustle, rustle. Soft rustling sounds suddenly rang out in the dense forest. Zhuowen and the other two immediately focused their gazes on the source of the sound. They saw 5 figures slowly walking out from the corner a few dozen meters in front of them. There were 3 men and 2 women among the 5. The leader was a young woman around the age of 20. She was beautiful and had a graceful figure. She wore a tight black dress that outlined her beautiful figure. What was even more rare was that her skin was extremely white like snow. The other 4 people all followed this woman's lead. It was obvious that this woman was the leader of this team. Walking out of the dense forest, the 5 people's gazes gathered on Zhuowen and the other 2, especially after seeing the word mortal on the token on Zhuowen's waist that was still shining. More or less, a trace of contempt and disdain appeared in their eyes. The mortal rank token was the lowest level token, representing a low-level city. The token on the waist of the leading woman was a mortal rank token. Obviously, these 5 people were a team from an intermediate city. Naturally, the 5 of them were filled with a sense of superiority towards a low-level city that was 1 level lower than them. What a bummer. It's actually a low-level city again. Why didn't we meet other intermediate cities? Another woman in the team glanced at the token on Zhuowen's waist and curled her lips in displeasure. This woman was younger than the leading woman. There was a trace of immaturity on her pretty face. Moreover, her face was somewhat similar to the other woman's. Obviously, the 2 women were related by blood. Second sister, don't talk so much. The situation is critical now. 1 more person means 1 more force. The leading woman helplessly glared at the complaining woman. Soon after, she came in front of Zhuowen and the other 2 and said with a faint smile, The 3 of you, we are from Devil Iron City, an intermediate city. You don't have to be nervous. The 5 of us are not here to fight with you. My name is Zhang Xingya. The one who spoke just now is my younger sister Zhang Huiya. She is young and speaks without thinking. I hope the 3 of you don't take it to heart. When Zhuowen and the other 2 heard this, they couldn't help but look at each other. The woman in front of them was so polite. Obviously, she didn't have any hostility towards them. However, What surprised them was that Zhang Xinya was still so polite even though she knew that they were from a low-level city. This made the three of them a little confused. My name is Zhuowen. I am from Rotan Armor City, a low-level city. These two are my companions Gu Xian and Hu Wuing. Although Zhuowen was a little puzzled as to why this lady called Zhang Xinya was so polite to them, he still replied politely. As he spoke, Zhuowen narrowed his eyes. Of Zhuowen. And why didn't your Devil Iron City directly enter the Holy City? Why are you wandering outside the Holy City? If I'm not wrong, you're deliberately trying to get close to our team. Zhang Xinya was stunned when she heard this. She didn't expect the ordinary young man in front of her to be so meticulous. She also noticed that Gu Xian and Hu Wuing were deliberately standing behind the youngest young man in front of her. Obviously, they faintly followed the young man's lead. This young man seems to be a little complicated, Zhang Xinya thought. However, that was all there was to it. After all, Zhuowen's group of three had only come from a low-level city. Although Zhuowen, the youngest among them, was not an ordinary person, Zhang Xinya did not think much of him. After all, there was a huge difference between a low-level city and an intermediate city. Hearing this, Zhang Xinya was quite surprised. It seems that the three of you really don't know anything? Know what? When Zhuowen heard this, he faintly felt that something was wrong and quickly asked. You really don't know anything? Coming from a low-level city, you are really the most useless. You don't know anything. Let me tell you, if you continue to move forward, I'm afraid you won't even be able to keep your lives. The younger Zhang Huiya sneered. Zhang Huiya's sneer made Zhuowen frown slightly, but he didn't bother to pay attention to this snobbish woman. He just silently waited for her to continue. The 5 people from Devil Iron City should have reached the Holy Region earlier than them. Logically speaking, they should have entered the Holy City by now. However, they were now wandering outside the Holy City. It was obvious that they had encountered something that prevented them from entering the Holy City. Zhuowen could ignore Zhang Huiya's sarcasm, but it didn't mean that Gu Xian and Hu Wuing beside him didn't care. Gu Xian and Hu Wuing immediately glared at Zhang Huiya and said, You'd better watch your mouth. Yo, you're not convinced? You 3 trash from a low-level city want to be on equal footing with us from a middle-level city? Don't you know what kind of trash you are? I only need one hand to knock the 3 of you down. The sarcasm on Zhang Huiya's pretty face grew stronger as she spoke unscrupulously. Creak. Gu Xian and Hu Wuing clenched their fists so tightly that cracking sounds could be heard. They gritted their teeth and glared at Zhang Huiya. Just as they were about to attack, they were stopped by Zhuowen. Don't be impulsive. We still haven't figured out what's going on, Zhuowen said indifferently. However, his eyes were filled with a chilling intent. Hearing this, Gu Xian and Hu Wuing also calmed down. They snorted coldly and retreated behind Zhuowen, ignoring the sneering Zhang Huiya. Your captain is sensible. If you had attacked just now, I'm afraid you would have lost your lives, Zhang Huiya sneered. Her pretty face could not help but reveal a smug look. Just when she was about to mock again, she was directly interrupted by Zhuowen. That's enough. If you're done, tell me what happened. Zhuowen said coldly as he stared coldly at the unscrupulous Zhang Huiya. Suddenly interrupted by Zhuowen, Zhang Huiya could not help but be stunned. The smug look on her face suddenly turned gloomy. She pointed at Zhuowen and said, Who do you think you are? How dare you point your finger at me? Did I allow you to speak? Do you believe that I won't tear your mouth apart? Hearing Zhang Huiya's unruly words, Zhuowen finally became a little impatient. The original coldness in his eyes had been replaced by killing intent. The 5 people in front of him were only a team from an intermediate city. The strongest, Zhang Xinya, was only at the advanced Heavenly King stage. The younger Zhang Huiya was at the initial Heavenly King stage. The remaining 3 were only at the Earth King stage. With Zhuowen's strength, he could definitely kill the 5 of them in an instant. The moment Zhang Huiya met Zhuowen's murderous eyes, her face suddenly stiffened. Her pretty face became extremely pale, and she swallowed the words that she wanted to say. Zhang Xinya, who had fallen silent, felt Zhuowen's murderous intent, and her heart skipped a beat. She quickly changed the topic and said, Actually, it's like this. Within a few hundred meters of the holy city, there are two teams from high-grade cities guarding it. They are waiting for the opportunity to annihilate the other low-grade and middle-grade cities. If we go there rashly, I'm afraid that we will be defeated one by one. Therefore, the reason why we are loitering here is to gather enough teams to fight against the two teams from advanced cities outside the city. This is also the reason why we took the initiative to approach the other teams when we found that they were approaching. After all, there is strength in numbers. Although we are only from intermediate and low cities, if we have enough people, we are not afraid of those advanced cities. Therefore, I hope that you can join us. This way, the chances of entering the holy city will be higher. Upon hearing this, Zhuowen was a little surprised. He did not expect that there would be two teams from high-grade cities waiting outside the holy city. Obviously, the high-grade cities that had entered the holy city did not want the other middle-grade and low-grade cities to take advantage of the situation. After eliminating the weaker teams from the middle-grade and low-grade cities, only the high-grade cities would be left to compete with each other. Zhang Xinya looked at Zhuowen with some expectation. After Zhuowen released his murderous intent, she faintly felt that the young man in front of her was definitely not weak. At the same time, she was a little surprised that he could release such a murderous intent. How many people had he killed to have such a strong murderous intent? Zhuowen didn't rush to agree. Instead, he pondered for a while and said, "How many teams have you gathered? Also, who are the two teams from advanced cities outside the holy city?" "We've already gathered 4 teams from low-level cities. Including you guys, we'll have 5 teams. There are 2 teams from intermediate cities. One is from our Devil Iron City, and the other is from Gangshan City. Gangshan City is stronger than our Devil Iron City. The 2 teams from advanced cities outside the Holy City are Azure Dragon City and Jeyu City. These 2 teams are relatively weak." Zhang Xinya didn't hide anything. "Brother Gu, Brother Hu, what do you two think?" Zhuowen asked the 2 behind him with a smile. "Brother Zhua, you are our team leader. You make the decision." Gu Xian and Hu Wuying shook their heads. "Then we will also join you." After pondering for a while, Zhuowen said with a smile. At this time, Zhuowen didn't want to expose his strength too much. Naturally, Zhuowen wasn't afraid of Azure Dragon City and Jiayu City. However, he was a little afraid of Thunder Universe City and Nine Dragon City. These 2 teams from advanced cities were indeed strong. Even at this time, Zhuowen didn't have the slightest chance of winning against these 2 teams. If he exposed his strength too early, Nine Dragon City and Thunder Universe City might join forces to get rid of him first. At that time, it would be really not worth the loss. Seeing Zhuowen agree, Zhang Xinya's pretty face suddenly showed a trace of joy. Although Zhuowen only came from a low cities, she felt that this young man in front of her wasn't simple. Perhaps he could be of help to their alliance this time. Now that we are considered to be in the same camp, I will now take the 3 of you to join the other teams. At that time, we can go to the holy city together. Chapter 378. Arrangement. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Black figures shuttled through the dense forest, causing the birds in the forest to fly into the sky. The crisp chirps of the birds converged into a pleasant melody. Not long after, the figures shuttling through the forest stopped in a rather wide open space. At this time, there were already many people gathered in the open space. These people had obviously heard the wind in the forest, and all of them looked at the forest with vigilance. However, when these people saw a group of people rushing over from the forest, the cautious expression on their faces slowly disappeared. There were even some people who laughed and said, "The 5 from the Devil Iron City have all returned. It seems that they have even brought along new companions." Amidst the teasing of some people in the open space, Zhang Xinya, Zhang Huiya, and the other 4 from Devil Iron City appeared in the open space with Zhuowen and the other 2. "Zhuowen, these people on the open space were gathered by us. Among them there are 4 teams from low-grade cities. The 6 people in the middle of the open space are from another middle-grade city, Gang City. Gang City is slightly stronger than Devil Iron City, and they are the main force to break through into the holy city this time." Before arriving at the open space, Zhang Xinya introduced the few teams on the open space to Zhuowen in detail. When she introduced Gang City, a hint of fear appeared on Zhang Xinya's pretty face. Zhang Huiya, who had a somewhat unruly personality, recovered from the shock at this time, and could not help but snort coldly. It's no different from not having a low-grade city like your Vine Armor City. The main force is still our Devil Iron City and Gang City. When the time comes, you only need to put in a little effort. You're really lucky this time. Completely ignoring Zhang Huiya, Zhuowen's gaze landed on the 6 people in the middle of the open space, especially the young man in yellow, who was leading the 6. Zhang Xinya had already introduced him to Zhuowen on the way here. This young man in yellow was the captain of Gang City, and his name was Zheng Yi. His strength had reached the complete Heavenly King stage. With the foundation of a middle-grade city, being able to cultivate to the complete Heavenly King stage meant that Zheng Yi was quite talented. When Zheng Yi saw Zhang Xinya and the others, a smile appeared on his handsome face. He slowly walked towards Zhang Xinya, ignoring Zhuowen and the others beside Zhang Xinya. Instead, he fixed his gaze on Zhang Xinya and said with a smile, "Xinya, this time, we only need the cooperation of Devil Iron City and Gang City to enter the Holy City. It's too superfluous to find trash from a low-grade city." From the beginning to the end, Zheng Yi did not take Zhuowen and the others seriously. After all, Zhuowen and the others were from a low-grade city. To him, having them was as good as not having them. They would not be of much use. Zhang Xinya couldn't help but frown when she sensed Zheng Yi's burning gaze. She said coldly, "Xinya knows that young Master Zheng is very strong, but we're facing 2 high-rank cities. Even if Azure Dragon City and Jeju City don't have any half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm experts, they have a lot more Heavenly King Realm cultivators than we do. That's not something our 2 mid-rank cities can withstand." Zheng Yi did not mind Zhang Xinya's cold attitude at all. He smiled and said, "I was just joking. These 3 should be the team you just brought back, right?" As he spoke, Zheng Yi's gaze landed on Zhuowen and the others. He said indifferently, "I am Zheng Yi from Gang City. May I know who you are?" Seeing Zheng Yi's perfunctory attitude, Zhuowen could not be bothered with this guy who was bursting with a sense of superiority. He only replied indifferently, "Rattan Armor City is only a low-grade city." After he finished speaking, he walked past Zheng Yi with Gu Xian and Hu Wuying. He casually chose an empty space and sat down cross-legged on the ground. Zheng Yi's eyes narrowed slightly when he saw Zhuowen's group of 3 walk past him. These lowly commoners from 3 low-level cities actually didn't give him any face. This made Zheng Yi feel rather displeased, and he looked at the backs of Zhuowen's group with a cold gaze. "Young Master Zheng, if there's nothing else, I'll go and arrange the team first." Zhang Xinya did not have a good impression of Zheng Yi. She said indifferently and walked past him. She arranged the team in the center of the empty space and prepared to go to the holy city. Zheng Yi's face became even uglier. A trace of anger suddenly appeared on his face. He snorted in a low voice, "Zhang Xinya, there's no woman that I, Zheng Yi, can't get my hands on." As he spoke, Zheng Yi's gaze once again converged on Zhuowen and the other 2 people in a remote corner of the open space. The corners of his mouth revealed a trace of a sinister smile as he thought to himself, "The lowly people of these 3 low-level cities have quite a temper. However, these kinds of people usually die the fastest." Dang! The sound of footsteps approaching suddenly interrupted Zheng Yi's thoughts. He slowly raised his head and saw Zhang Huiya standing in front of him. She whispered softly, "Young Master Zheng, are you interested in cooperating with me?" Zheng Yi looked at Zhang Huiya in surprise. He did not expect Zhang Huiya, who had always kept a respectful distance from him, to take the initiative to approach him. Looking at Zhang Huiya's delicate face and delicate body, Zheng Yi's eyes flashed with an undetectable strangeness. "Oh, cooperation? Sister Huiya, why do you want to cooperate with me?" Zheng Yi grinned. "Young Master Zheng, you must have seen the arrogant attitude of the 3 from Rattan Armor City. These lowly people from low-grade cities are very lucky to join our team. They have the opportunity to break through the defenses of Green Dragon City and Jeju City and enter the Holy City. However, the three of them did not appreciate it at all. Their attitude was even more arrogant. If we don't teach them a lesson, they won't know the power of our middle-grade cities. Zhang Huiya sneered. Zhang Yi was stunned. He did not expect Zhang Huiya to cooperate with him, because of Zhuowen and the others. Looking at Zhang Huiya's expression, Zhang Yi guessed that the three of them must have offended the unruly Zhang Huiya in front of him. Otherwise, Zhang Huiya would not have come to him personally. The three of them are really arrogant. They are just lowly people from low-grade cities. How dare they be so arrogant? I don't like it. However, there will be plenty of opportunities to teach them a lesson. When the time comes to fight with Green Dragon City and Jiayu City, we only need to do a little trick to make the three of them disappear from this world completely. Zhang Yi smiled coldly with a hint of killing intent in his eyes. Zhang Huiya couldn't help but be shocked when she heard this. Initially, she only wanted to work with Zhang Yi to teach Zhuowen and the other two a lesson. However, she didn't expect Zhang Yi to be so ruthless as to directly kill the three of them. Zhang Huiya looked at Zhang Yi in front of her with fear. This person was so ruthless. No wonder her sister told her not to get close to Zhang Yi. As if seeing the fear on Zhang Huiya's face, Zhang Yi grinned and said jokingly, "What's wrong? Sister Huiya, you can't do it? Or you don't have the courage to do it?" "Nonsense. I also want to kill Zhuowen and the others. How can I not have the courage to do it?" Zhang Huiya quickly retorted with a flushed face after being provoked by Zhang Yi. "If that's the case, then that's for the best." Zhang Yi looked deeply at Zhang Huiya. After discussing some details with her, the two of them parted ways and returned to their respective teams, as if nothing had happened. In a corner of the open space, Zhuowen noticed Zhang Huiya and Zhang Yi whispering not far away. He could not help but squint his eyes. No one knew what he was thinking. Not long after, Zhang Xinya arranged the other teams in the open space and said loudly, "Everyone knows that the only way to enter the Holy City has been blocked by the Azure Dragon City and Jiyu City, two high-grade cities. Fortunately, the strength of these two cities is not high, and they don't have any half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm experts. So we only need to work together to break through the defenses of Green Dragon City and Jiyu City and enter the Holy City." As soon as Zhang Xinya spoke, the other teams in the open space became restless. However, they quickly calmed down. This Zhang Xinya was quite capable. The teams from the other low-level cities in the open space were quite convinced by Zhang Xinya. No one spoke out against her. The captains of Green Dragon City and Jiayu City are only at the perfect Heavenly King stage. Everyone knows that young Master Zheng from Gangshan City is also at the perfect Heavenly King stage. When the time comes, young Master Zheng will restrain one of the captains, and my sister Zhang Huiya and I will work together to restrain the other captain. As for the other teams from Green Dragon City and Jiayu City, you will need to work together to deal with them. Although we are not as strong as Green Dragon City and Jiayu City, we have a lot more people. The difference in strength can be made up with numbers. We have a high chance of winning this battle." Zhang Xinya's tone was extremely calm from beginning to end. Her watery eyes swept across the open space as she continued. "If no one has any objections, then let's set off now." After Zhang Xinya finished speaking, the other warriors in the open space stood up one after another. They lined up neatly in the center of the open space and looked at Zhang Xinya with reverence in their eyes. After all, Zhang Xinya was beautiful and strong. These warriors of the low-level cities were willing to listen to Zhang Xinya's orders. Zheng Yi, who was standing on the side, was slightly displeased. He was the strongest in the team and had already reached the perfect Heavenly King stage. However, the cultivators from the lower cities only kept a respectful distance from him. On the other hand, Zhang Xinya, who was slightly weaker than him, had a much higher prestige than him. "Since everyone agrees, let's set off now." Zhang Xinya nodded in satisfaction and nodded to Zheng Yi. Then she led the team towards the Holy City. Zheng Yi smiled coldly and followed closely behind. Zhuowen and the other two, who were originally sitting in the corner of the open space, didn't say anything. They just followed silently at the back of the team, appearing extremely inconspicuous. However, Zhuowen secretly transmitted his voice to Gu Xian and Hu Wuying beside him. When we fight Green Dragon City and Jeju City later, try to preserve your strength as much as possible. Zhang Huiya and Zhang Yi are probably up to no good. Chapter 379. Azure WRM City and Jeju City. As usual, the holy city was bustling with people coming and going. There were always many powerful warriors going in and out of the huge city gate. In a dense forest several hundred meters away from the holy city, two teams sat lazily in an empty space. They seemed to be discussing something. These two teams were guarding the two high-grade cities, Azure Dragon City and Jeju City, outside the holy city. There were not many people in the two teams, and there were only 16 people in total. The strongest people in the two teams were the captains of the two teams, and their strength was at the great circle of the Heavenly King stage. The captain of Azure WRM City was called Fan Shi. When Zhuowen and the others had arrived at the provincial capital, they had come into contact with the Azure WRM City team. Naturally, they could recognize Fan Shi's appearance. He was only at the great circle of the Heavenly King stage. The captain of Jeju City was called Chen Fu. He was a young man with brown hair and a resolute expression. Chen Fu's strength was similar to Fan Shi's, both at the great circle of the Heavenly King stage. How unlucky! We just had to be assigned to the same island as Nine Dragons City and Thunder Universe City. With the strength of our two teams, it's simply impossible for us to be a match for Nine Dragons City and Thunder Universe City. Fan Shi crossed his arms and leaned against a tree trunk as he complained. Nine Dragons City and Thunder Universe City both have 3 half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators. Nine Dragons City is the most terrifying of them all. It's said that their captain Feng Long can break through to the Ultimate Emperor Realm at any time. It's just that he's been suppressing his cultivation to the half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm. With Feng Long's strength, ordinary half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators are no match for him. Trying to compete with these two teams for the island is simply courting death, Chen Fu sneered. Both Azure WRM City and Jeju City knew their limits. They knew that with the two powerful teams, Nine Dragons City and Thunder Universe City, their chances of seizing control of the island were close to zero. As a result, they didn't plan on entering the holy city. However, Green Dragon City and Jeju City were extremely unwilling to leave the tower empty-handed. Therefore, the two teams turned their attention to the remaining teams from the intermediate and low-level cities. Although the resources of the middle and low-level cities were far inferior to those of the high-level cities, the geniuses that were sent out this time were the geniuses of the cities. Moreover, the Qingquan bags of these geniuses often contained valuable items. Therefore, the Azure Dragon City and Jeju City planned to make a good profit before leaving the Origin Chi Tower and snatch the Qingquan bags from the geniuses of the middle and low-level cities. Fan Shi gave a cold snort and said, "Humph. Naturally I know that. This is also the reason why I didn't enter the Holy City and directly faced the two teams from Nine Dragons City and Thunder Universe City." When Chen Fu heard this, he was about to say something sarcastic again when suddenly, a black shadow rushed towards Chen Fu from the depths of the forest. In the blink of an eye, it was only an inch away from Chen Fu's forehead. Clang! Chen Fu's eyes narrowed. His right hand formed a sword and pinched upwards, instantly catching the black shadow. When he focused his eyes, he discovered that the black shadow in his hand was actually a steel needle. Fan Shi, it seems that those lowly people from the middle and low-level cities can't hold back anymore. Get ready for battle, Chen Fu said coldly, as he flicked the steel needle between his fingers and shot it at a tree trunk. This is good too. It saves us the trouble of looking for these guys. Fan Shi licked his lips and said excitedly. In just a moment, the members of the two teams on the open ground took out their respective weapons and looked at the depths of the forest with vigilance. Whoosh! 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 Fan Shi and Chen Fu didn't have to wait for too long. They saw a group of people slowly walking out from the depths of the forest. At a glance, there were about 40 to 50 people, and the leaders were Zhang Xinya and Zheng Yi. With so many people appearing all of a sudden, Fan Shi and Chen Sheng's expressions changed slightly. They didn't expect that the teams from the middle and low-level cities would actually start to form an alliance. Pretty smart. You actually managed to form an alliance with the other low-level cities. However, to us, the teams from the low-level cities are just a motley crew. What's the use even if you gather more people? You're just a group of cannon fodder sent to die. Chen Fu recovered from his shock and said indifferently, ants can kill an elephant with enough strength. No matter how weak the strength is, as long as they gather together, they can still display a powerful strength. Chen Fu, so what if you're from a high-level city? Do you think you'll definitely win against us? Zhang Xinya said coldly, it's not that we'll definitely win, but you'll definitely die. All of you go to hell. Fan Shi, there's no need to hold back. Kill all of these guys. When the time comes, we'll split the Qianquan bag. As he spoke, Chen Fu took the lead and pulled out a blood-red broadsword from his Qianquan bag. He stomped his feet on the ground, and his whole body flew directly toward Zhang Xinya. I don't need you to tell me. Fan Shi grinned, and also pulled out a weapon from his Qianquan bag. It was a huge meteor hammer. Not to be outdone, he followed behind Chen Fu and rushed toward Zhang Xinya's group. Zhang Xinya and Zhang Yi also didn't expect that Chen Fu and Fan Shi would actually directly attack as soon as they arrived. Their faces couldn't help but change. Young Master Zhang, I'll leave Fan Shi to you. Huya and I will deal with Chen Fu. Zhang Xinya gritted her teeth and hurriedly instructed Zhang Yi. Then, she led Zhang Huya to fight against Chen Fu. Zhang Yi nodded slightly and directly rushed toward Fan Shi. Boom. In just an instant, the battle was on the verge of breaking out. The team led by Fan Shi and Chen Fu clashed with the team led by Zhang Xinya in the blink of an eye. For a moment, the sound of clashing metal resounded throughout the dense forest. The ear-piercing sound of metal clashing filled the entire open space, crisp and clear. You guys overestimate yourselves. Die! Looking at Zhang Xinya and Zhang Huya who were rushing toward him, Chen Fu revealed a sinister smile. He clenched his right hand, and the huge blood-red broadsword, with a pungent smell, slashed toward Zhang Xinya's neck. Chen Fu could tell at a glance that Zhang Xinya and Zhang Huya were weaker than him. One was at the advanced Heavenly King stage, while the other was only at the initial Heavenly King stage. Such strength posed no threat to him at all. Therefore, he was very confident that this attack would definitely be able to kill the two sisters in front of him. Facing the huge blood-red broadsword that was slashing toward them, Zhang Xinya and Zhang Huya were not flustered at all. Both of them took out similar blue longswords from their cosmos bags. Then, both of them held the longswords in their left and right hands and shouted in unison. Left and right combination. As soon as the shout came out, the auras of the two women suddenly rose. And they actually rose to a level comparable to the peak of the Heavenly King stage. Boom! The two blue longswords struck out at the same time, and directly struck the blood-red broadsword that was rushing toward them. Unexpectedly, the powerful blood-red broadsword was directly sent flying. Chen Fu's pupil shrank. He didn't expect the two ladies' auras to suddenly rise to the level of complete Heavenly King stage. Taking a step in the void, Chen Fu easily caught the blood-red broadsword and said with a frown. After the two of them joined forces, their strength actually rose to the level of complete Heavenly King stage. What kind of secret technique is this? This secret technique is called left and right combination. It can forcibly gather the origin energy of two people at one point, greatly increasing their combined strength. Although one of us is at the advanced Heavenly King stage, and the other is at the initial Heavenly King stage, under the enhancement of this secret technique, our strength is no weaker than yours at all. I'm afraid you can't defeat us right now. Under the effect of the left and right combination secret technique, Zhang Xinya and Zhang Huya spoke in the same way, as if they were the same person speaking. Can't do it? You think too highly of yourselves. A secret technique is a secret technique after all. There must be a time limit. I can buy time. When the secret technique's time is up, let's see if you're still a match for me. Watch out for my broadsword. Chen Fu's eyes were cold, and the corner of his mouth revealed a sinister smile. After saying this, he directly raised the blood-red broadsword and began to fight with the two sisters again. He intended to buy time with the two sisters. When the effect of the left and right combination secret technique was over, the two sisters' alliance would collapse. Zhang Xinya and Zhang Huiya's expressions changed slightly when they heard this. Obviously, Chen Fu was right about the flaw of the left and right combination secret technique. This secret technique indeed had a time limit. Once the time limit was up, the secret technique would automatically disappear, and the two sisters would fall into a weakened state for a period of time. Second sister, we have to go all out in this battle. Otherwise, we'll all die here, Zhang Xinya said to Zhang Huiya, who was beside her cautiously. Zhang Huiya nodded, understanding the seriousness of the matter. Immediately after, the two sisters pounced on Chen Fu again, their attacks becoming sharper and fiercer. Zhuowen, who was mixed in the team, also saw the left and right combination secret technique used by Zhang Xinya and Zhang Huiya. His eyes suddenly burst with a glimmer of light. This kind of secret technique was extremely rare. Even Zhuowen began to feel a little tempted. This kind of secret technique that required the cooperation of two people was not very useful to Zhuowen, but it was extremely useful to Gu Xian and Hu Wuying, who were weaker. After all, the battle for the Vitality Tower was not a one-person battle, but a battle between teams. With Zhuowen's current strength and promotion speed, the gap between Gu Xian and Hu Wuying would definitely widen. Moreover, the opponents he would have to face would also become stronger. Therefore, Gu Xian and Hu Wuying were destined to be a burden to Zhuowen. However, with this secret technique, the gap between Gu Xian and Hu Wuying and Zhuowen would not be so obvious. If there's a chance, it's best to exchange for this secret technique from Zhang Xinya. This secret technique is really useful to Gu Xian and Hu Wuying. Zhuowen dealt with the opponents in front of him somewhat perfunctorily, secretly calculating in his heart. What Zhuowen did not notice was that on the other side, Zheng Yi, who was fighting with Fan Shi, glanced at Zhuowen's location from the corner of his eyes. And whether it was intentional or not, Zheng Yi seemed to be deliberately leading Fan Shi to Zhuowen's direction. Chapter 380. Killing with a Borrowed Knife. I never thought that a guy from a middle-grade city like you would actually be able to cultivate to the full-circle Heavenly King stage. This is rather rare. However, aren't you a little too weak? Don't tell me that you only know how to dodge. In the air, Fan Shi laughed wantonly as he swung his meteor hammer towards Zheng Yi. The powerful force almost caused the air to whistle. Zheng Yi's weapon was a rather large green spear. Zheng Yi raised his hands and blocked the meteor hammer that was flying towards him. However, the impact of the collision between the meteor hammer and the spear caused Zheng Yi to retreat continuously. As he retreated, Zheng Yi's feet lightly stepped on the ground, and he instantly deviated from his original direction. Instead, he retreated towards the battle group that Zhuowen was in. When he was less than 50 meters away from Zhuowen, Zheng Yi circulated his yuan power and naturally stopped his body. He stared coldly at Fan Shi in front of him and said coldly, Green Dragon City can be considered a high-grade city. As a genius of Green Dragon City, is this all you have? When Fan Shi heard this, his eyes narrowed as he shouted with some anger. What a reckless fellow. You actually dare to speak such arrogant words even when you are about to die. Today, I will completely cripple you. As he spoke, Fan Shi raised the pair of meteor hammers in his hands. His chest suddenly puffed up as the surrounding yuan power was sucked into his body. Immediately, the surging yuan power that was sucked into his body passed through Fan Shi's arms and poured into the meteor hammers in his hands. In an instant, the meteor hammers emitted an extremely dazzling light. Exploding meteor hammers. Go to hell for me. The meteor hammers in Fan Shi's hands emitted an extremely dazzling light. It was as bright and beautiful as a meteor falling from the night sky. When the light reached its peak, Fan Shi's arm muscles swelled up as a bull-like breath gushed out from his nostrils. Then, he swung the hammers fiercely towards Zheng Yi, who was not far away. The two meteor hammers were like two huge meteors. They carried a power that seemed to be able to tear through space as they hurtled towards Zheng Yi. The surrounding air pressure became extremely terrifying at this moment. The ground even began to crack under the pressure. It could be seen that the power of the exploding meteor hammers was astonishing. A solemn expression surfaced on Zheng Yi's face as he stared at the imposing meteor hammer. He did not expect that Fan Shi would actually have such a trump card up his sleeve. The might of this exploding meteor hammer had greatly exceeded his expectations. It was obvious that it was an extremely powerful heavenly tier armor skill. If he were to be struck by this attack, even if he did not die, he would at least lose a layer of skin. Glancing sideways at Zhuo Wen, who was tens of meters behind him, unaware of the attack, Zheng Yi's face instantly turned cold. He twisted his feet in midair, and his entire body changed direction in a strange posture, just in time to dodge the exploding meteor hammer that was coming straight at him. Naturally, the trajectory of the exploding meteor hammer did not change. After being dodged by Zheng Yi, it continued on its original trajectory, heading straight for Zhuo Wen. "Kid, you're dead for sure this time. I really want to see what your expression will be like before you die." Looking at the meteor hammer that was whistling towards Zhuo Wen, Zheng Yi's face revealed a perverted smile as he whispered coldly, "Boom! Boom!" The loud noise caused by the meteor hammer immediately attracted the attention of Zhuo Wen and the other martial warriors around him. When the other martial warriors saw the meteor hammer, their faces immediately revealed a trace of fear. "Oh my god! This is the meteor hammer of the Green Dragon City's captain Fan Shi." Looking at the power on the surface of the meteor hammer, it is obvious that he has used a powerful armor skill. This is the full-strength attack of a perfect Heavenly King stage powerhouse. We can't stop it at all. Run. Run. Staying here is simply courting death. Some of the martial warriors who were fighting closer to Zhuo Wen, after seeing the meteor hammer flying towards them, fled in all directions like monkeys scattering when the tree falls. However, the meteor hammer's speed was too fast, and in the blink of an eye, it had arrived above these people. The moment the meteor hammer landed on the ground, Zhuo Wen's eyes narrowed. Soon, he saw Zheng Yi, who was sneering a few dozen meters away. It seemed that the meteor hammer that was heading towards him was not a coincidence. It was very likely that Zheng Yi had deliberately created a method to kill him with a borrowed knife. Just as this thought flashed across Zhuo Wen's mind, the huge meteor hammer finally smashed heavily into a place not far from him. Following that, a powerful pressure accompanied by a huge amount of yuan power surged out from the meteor hammer in an instant. With the meteor hammer as the epicenter, the berserk energy quickly spread out in all directions, enveloping an area of nearly 10 feet. Boom! 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 An earth-shattering explosion suddenly resounded in the entire open space, followed by a dazzling ball of light that burst out in the open space. Then, extremely shrill screams rose and fell one after another, as if ghosts were wailing and wolves were howling. However, the screams did not last for long before they completely stopped. Obviously, the owners of the screams had already died. Zhuo Wen, in a battle group far away from the meteor hammer explosion, Gu Xian and Hu Wuying, who were fighting with other martial warriors, were also attracted by the violent explosion. When they saw Zhuo Wen's figure completely enveloped by the power of the meteor hammer, they immediately widened their eyes and couldn't help but roar out in anger. Of course, the violent explosion also alarmed the attention of all the martial artists in the open space, so these martial artists stopped fighting one after another. Instead, they focused their gazes on the location of the explosion. Their faces were filled with fear. The power of Fan Shi's move was too great, causing many weaker martial artists to tremble in their hearts. Whoosh! The battle between the sisters Zhang Xinya and Zhang Huiya and Qin Fu also stopped because of this. They also focused their eyes on the location of the explosion. Their eyes were filled with shock, especially Zhang Huiya, who even revealed a faint smile at the corner of her mouth. If she remembered correctly, the area of the explosion seemed to be near Zhuo Wen. She was afraid that the annoying guy had already been completely killed by the destructive power of the explosion just now. Fan Shi's strength is still above my expectations. The power of this exploding meteor hammer is really terrifying. I'm afraid that if I were to face it head-on, even if I don't die, I would be seriously injured. Holding the blood-red broadsword in his hand, Qin Fu said to himself with fear in his eyes. Huff! At this moment, Fan Shi's chest was heaving up and down violently. His breathing had also become rather heavy. Clearly, the exploding meteor hammer that he had just used was quite a burden on him. Nearly half of the yuan power in his body had been consumed. Damn it! I actually didn't hit this guy. Fan Shi also saw Zheng Yi, who had dodged the exploding meteor hammer, and could not help but curse in a low voice. After withdrawing his gaze, Zheng Yi shifted his gaze to Fan Shi, who was panting a short distance away. From the way he saw it, Zhuowen would definitely die under Fan Shi's exploding meteor hammer. Therefore, he naturally placed all his attention on Fan Shi. As expected of a heaven-rank armor skill, the power it can unleash is actually so strong. However, now that you have lost your weapon, I'm afraid that your attack power has been greatly reduced. Do you think that you are still a match for me now? Zheng Yi sneered as the corner of his mouth curled into an arc. Hearing this, Fan Shi's face suddenly became gloomy. He coldly snorted and said, "With your little strength, I can defeat you even without a weapon. Die." With a loud cry, Fan Shi's foot suddenly stomped on the ground. The enormous strength caused the ground to crack. Soon after, Fan Shi's entire body transformed into an illusory black shadow that rushed directly towards Zheng Yi. Do you really think that's all I have? If it weren't for the fact that I wanted to borrow a knife to kill someone, do you think that I would have dodged you? Zheng Yi's mouth parted as he quietly muttered in his heart. Not to be outdone, he held the green long spear and instantly approached Fan Shi. Subsequently, he clenched his right hand tightly, and a flood of yuan power immediately poured out. The green long spear in his hand had more than doubled in size. Bang! Zheng Yi's right hand pulled inwards, and the green long spear was violently thrown out. It was like a huge door that directly swung at Fan Shi's waist. A warning sign rose in Fan Shi's heart. He coldly snorted, and his right hand instantly stretched out in a claw shape, in an attempt to grab the green long spear in his hand. Clang! The sound of metal clashing suddenly rang out. Fan Shi's right hand actually met Zheng Yi's green long spear head-on. Moreover, he had directly blocked it. However, Zheng Yi's face was filled with ridicule. Immediately, the 5 fingers of his right hand suddenly moved, and the green long spear in his hand suddenly rotated. At the same time, waves of green energy escaped from the long spear, like a rain of needles, and shot toward Fan Shi without any warning. Fan Shi's expression changed drastically. He did not expect Zheng Yi to actually hide such a sinister move. He was caught off guard, and was immediately bombarded by many green energy. Under the pain, Fan Shi involuntarily let go of the green long spear in his hand. I'm really sorry. It seems that I have won the battle between us by a little, and you have become the final loser. So go to hell. Zheng Yi laughed wantonly. His hand's movement was not slow. The green long spear was like a poisonous snake, approaching Fan Shi at a tricky angle in an instant, and violently swung at the latter's waist. Bang! The powerful force immediately caused Fan Shi to involuntarily fly backward. He spat out a mouthful of blood in midair, and the direction that Fan Shi flew backward was the explosion area that the exploding meteor hammer had just bombarded. At this time, there was still a thick smoke and dust in the explosion area that had not dissipated. However, when Fan Shi's body was about to fly into the explosion area, the former's body strangely stopped in midair, as if it had hit a hard wall. Were you the one who hit the meteor hammer just now? Just when everyone was wondering about Fan Shi's situation at this time, a rather clear voice suddenly came slowly from the smoke and dust. Then, a somewhat vague figure gradually walked out of the smoke and dust. At this time, Fan Shi's condition was not good. He was bleeding from his 7 orifices and was dying. Zheng Yi's attack just now was too ruthless. He did not intend to let Fan Shi live at all. Fan Shi was not far from death at this time. However, he still struggled to raise his head to look at the figure behind him. He knew that this figure had indirectly saved his life. After all, with his current severe injuries, if he fell directly to the ground, there was an 80% chance that he would die immediately. Chapter 381. Zheng Yi's fear. Looking at Fan Shi, who was already bleeding from all 7 orifices and on the verge of death, Zhuowen knew that the latter was not far from death. This was because the instant he came into contact with Fan Shi's body, Zhuowen discovered that many of the vital channels in the latter's body had already been brutally destroyed by a wave of yuan power. The chances of survival were extremely slim. Fan Shi's lips squirmed a few times. Finally, his head tilted and he stopped breathing. Looking at the lifeless Fan Shi in his hand, Zhuowen sighed and shook his head. He released his right hand and placed Fan Shi's body on the ground. Then he looked coldly at Zheng Yi, who was standing not far away, stunned. At this moment, the entire space was deathly silent. Everyone stared at the nearby Zhuowen in disbelief. He was completely unscathed. They remembered very clearly that Fan Shi's exploding meteor hammer had directly hit the vicinity of this youth. That exploding meteor hammer was extremely powerful, enough to directly injure a cultivator at the peak of the Heavenly King stage. But this seemingly ordinary youth in front of them had actually walked out of the explosion unscathed. This was too inconceivable. Who the hell is this guy? Even I don't dare to take Fan Shi's exploding meteor hammer head-on. This kid was hit by such an attack and is unscathed. This, Chen Fu's pupil shrank to the size of needles as he involuntarily cried out. Zhang Xingya and her sister, who were standing not far away from Chen Fu, looked as if they had seen a ghost. They stared blankly at the young man, whose face had been extremely calm since the beginning. Their cherry lips parted slightly, but they did not know what to say. Why is this guy so strange? He didn't die under such a powerful attack. This is too. The most surprised person was Zhang Huiya. She stared straight at Zhuowen and whispered to herself, "Dang dang dang." Zhuowen looked indifferently at Zheng Yi, who had yet to recover from his shock. He slowly walked towards the ladder and said indifferently, "Zheng Yi, do you think I don't know what you've done? Fan Shi's attack just now was purposely created by you to kill with a borrowed knife. You used it pretty well, but..." As he spoke, Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and continued, "I, Zhuowen, believe that there is no enmity between us. Why are you targeting me?" At this time, Zheng Yi also recovered from his absent-mindedness. He snorted coldly and said, "Your attitude made me very unhappy. You, a lowly person from a low-level city, dare to put on airs in front of me. Zheng Yi? You're simply courting death. Hee. Don't think that just because you survived Fan Shi's exploding meteor hammer, you are really powerful. In my opinion, you are still unable to withstand a single blow." As he spoke, Zheng Yi's lips curled into a sinister grin. He stomped his foot, and the green spear in his hand emitted a green light. He directly pierced it towards Zhuowen. In his opinion, the reason why Zhuowen didn't die under Fan Shi's exploding meteor hammer was probably because he was lucky. After all, Zhuowen was only a martial artist from a low-level city. A low-level city was almost at the bottom of Muqing County. So how could it possibly cultivate a powerful martial artist? To be able to survive the bombardment of the exploding meteor hammer, it seems that your luck is really good. But now that I have made my move, your good luck will come to an end. You are dead meat." Zheng Yi sneered wantonly in midair. "Oh, so in your opinion, it was only luck that I was able to survive the exploding meteor hammer?" The corners of Zhuowen's mouth curled into a smile as he uttered such a brainless sentence. His skin began to slowly turn into a glazed color, and a luster flowed on the surface of his body like a meteor. In an instant, Zheng Yi's green spear pierced through the air like lightning. Before anyone could react, the sharp tip of the spear directly pierced into Zhuowen's chest. A sneer appeared at the corners of Zheng Yi's mouth. Zhuowen in front of him didn't dodge. In Zheng Yi's opinion, he was simply frightened. Therefore, the moment the spear pierced into Zhuowen's chest, Zheng Yi's eyes were full of disdain. As expected, he was just a lowly person from a low-level city. He was simply unable to withstand a single blow. Ding! However, the sneer on Zheng Yi's face quickly froze. This was because he realized that the moment the green spear pierced into Zhuowen's chest, it seemed to have pierced into an extremely hard rock. It actually emitted a sound of metal clashing. Subsequently, Zheng Yi was shocked to discover that the green spear was unable to move an inch in front of Zhuowen's chest. What made him even more shocked was that the green spear didn't even break through Zhuowen's skin. How is this possible? My clear moon spear is a high-level, middle-level spiritual treasure. It has almost reached the point where it can cut through metal like mud. How can it not even break through his physical defense? How can this guy's body be so hard? Is he still human? The moment the sound of metal clashing rang out, Zheng Yi's pupils shrank to the size of needles. The depths of his eyes were already filled with horror. Is this all you've got? Are you sure you want to kill me? Standing quietly in the same spot, Zhuowen stared at Zheng Yi indifferently and said word by word. Damn it! You can go to hell for me. Clear Moon Spear, 10,000 spears returned to 1. Go to hell! Zheng Yi roared. His eyes were filled with madness. In an instant, his hands formed a few seals. The green spear in his hand suddenly burst out with a dazzling green light. Immediately, the green light split into countless green spears that floated around Zheng Yi. Then, Zheng Yi pinched the air with his right hand, and the countless spears around him suddenly gathered together, and finally turned into a huge green spear that was dozens of feet long. The strong pressure almost made the weaker cultivators in the open space breathless, and they all retreated far away. Let's see if you can survive this time. Zheng Yi laughed crazily. The huge green spear above his head suddenly pierced through the void, and directly shot towards Zhuowen. The whistling sound of the air resounded in the open space. Zheng Yi, what are you doing? Zhuowen is a member of our team. Do you want to kill him? Looking at the huge green spear, Zhang Xinya, who was watching from the side, finally couldn't help but shout. Shut up. This Zhuowen is not a good person. I suspect that this bastard is likely a spy from Green Dragon City and Jeju City. I'm doing this for the sake of our team. Zheng Yi did not care about Zhuowen at all. His eyes were filled with killing intent. At this moment, Zhuowen actually gave him a faint sense of threat. This feeling made him feel very uncomfortable. Moreover, Zhuowen's tough body also surprised him. At the same time, it made his killing intent even more intense. In the depths of his killing intent, there was a trace of greed. Zhuowen's body was so hard that it was comparable to a high-grade middle-grade spirit treasure. It was obvious that he had practiced an extremely powerful body refining technique. If he could also obtain this body refining technique, his strength was likely to rise to a higher level, and this battle for the Essence Qi Tower would give him another layer of hope. Thinking of this, Zheng Yi's right hand formed a seal. He directly controlled the huge green spear and pierced down from above Zhuowen's head. I want to see if your body is hard or my 10,000 spears returned to 1 is hard. Zheng Yi's mouth was full of a sneer. After witnessing Zhuowen's powerful physical body, not only was Zheng Yi not afraid, but his killing intent had become even more intense. This outcome surprised Zhuowen quite a bit. At the same time, it also caused the killing intent in Zhuowen's heart to surge. You're courting death. Facing the huge green spear in the sky, Zhuowen only stretched out his right hand. Then, the huge green spear directly bombarded Zhuowen's right palm. Boom! The huge impact set off cyclones in the open space. The strong cyclones created a huge pressure, causing the entire open space to become a lot heavier. So powerful! The might of Zheng Yi's 10,000 spears returned to 1 is actually stronger than Fan Shi's exploding meteor hammer. That young man's realm doesn't seem high, but his body is comparable to a high-grade mid-grade soul treasure. How amazing! I just don't know if he can block Zheng Yi's 10,000 spears returned to 1. At the moment when the huge green spear collided with Zhuowen, many warriors couldn't help but discuss. However, their discussion didn't last for long. One by one, they stared at the center of the open space where the huge green spear was. An incredible scene suddenly appeared in front of their eyes. They saw that Zhuowen had actually grabbed the huge green spear that was dozens of feet long with his bare hands. What was even more incredible was that Zhuowen's right hand only lightly squeezed. Then, there was a clear cracking sound. Then, there were traces of cracks on the surface of the huge green spear. Bang! The cracks continued to spread. In the blink of an eye, they covered the entire body of the huge green spear. Then, the huge green spear collapsed inch by inch, turning into traces of green powder that scattered on the ground. Hua! An uproar instantly rose from the surroundings of the empty space. Everyone stared blankly at the young man in the center of the empty space, who was under the countless green brilliance. They were truly unable to imagine that such a powerful giant green spear was actually caught by the young man in front of them with his bare hands. Furthermore, he had directly crushed it into powder. What kind of strength did he need to do that? Impossible. How can your body be so hard that even the 10,000 spear unification can't break it? You're just a lowly person from a low-level city. How can you have such great strength? This is absolutely impossible. Zheng Yi spat out a mouthful of blood. He looked at his huge green spear that had been crushed into powder in a daze. He muttered to himself in a somewhat deranged manner. Whoosh! At the same time, Zhuowen moved at this moment. He instantly approached Zheng Yi and lifted him up with his right hand. Then he said indifferently, "Originally, I had no enmity with you, but you provoked me for no reason. So, don't blame me for courting death." Feeling the force around his neck, Zheng Yi finally came to his senses. He looked at Zhuowen in horror. For the first time, he felt that death was so close to him. "Don't kill me. You can't blame me for this. It's that bitch Zhang Huiya who asked me to deal with you. You can't blame me for this." Feeling the cold killing intent in Zhuowen's eyes, Zhang Yi exposed Zhang Huiya without hiding anything. Chapter 382. Left and right together. Zheng Yi, don't slander me. When did I say you were going to deal with Zhuowen? Zhang Huiya quickly retorted with a pale face. Zhuowen's performance just now was too terrifying. He was able to defeat the full-strength attack of a complete Heavenly King Realm cultivator with his bare hands. His strength was definitely at the level of a half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator. Such an expert was not someone they could fight against. Therefore, Zhang Huiya's heart was filled with regret. She regretted finding Zheng Yi and offending Zhuowen. After all, she did not expect Zhuowen, who was born in a low-level city, to be so strong. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and glanced at Zhang Huiya, who was not far away. He had a rough idea of what had happened. Before they set off, Zheng Yi and Zhang Huiya had been whispering to each other. The content of their conversation was probably about how to set him up. Crack! Zhuowen ignored Zheng Yi, who was still struggling in his hand. He exerted some force with his right hand, and the crisp sound of bones breaking resounded in the open space. Then, Zheng Yi's head was twisted in a strange way, and he was no longer breathing. Everyone in the open space was silent. They did not expect the young man in front of them to be so ruthless. He actually killed Zheng Yi with just one move. Seeing a complete Heavenly King Realm cultivator being killed so easily by Zhuowen, everyone in the open space could not help but tremble. They looked at Zhuowen with horror in their eyes. Zhang Huiya's delicate body began to tremble, especially when she saw Zheng Yi's corpse. Her eyes were filled with horror. Plop! The fear of death made Zhang Huiya kneel down. She lowered her head and begged, "Zhuowen, I was wrong. I didn't find Zheng Yi to kill you. I just wanted to teach you a lesson. Zheng Yi didn't like you, so he decided to take advantage of the chaos to set you up." Zhuowen did not expect Zhang Huiya to admit it so directly. He could not help but be stunned. Zhang Xinya looked at Zhuowen with a complicated expression and said, "Zhuowen, although Hanya is a little unruly, she will never take the initiative to harm others. Although she is wrong, the one who wants to kill you is Zheng Yi. I hope you can forgive her and let her go." Zhang Xinya's tone was extremely cautious. She could not see through Zhuowen. Judging from his performance just now, Zhuowen's strength was definitely far beyond everyone here. Even if she, Zhang Huiya, and Chen Fu joined forces, they might not be able to defeat Zhuowen. Therefore, she lowered her stance. "If it wasn't for the fact that I've cultivated a body refinement technique, I would have been seriously injured or even killed. This is a matter of life and death. Do you think I will just let it go like this?" Looking at Zhang Xinya in front of him, Zhuowen's eyes were slightly displeased. He was plotted against, and Zhang Xinya wanted to end it like this. That was too easy. Originally, Zhuowen was quite impressed by Zhang Xinya's means. Now, after seeing Zhang Xinya's attitude, Zhuowen's favorable impression of her completely disappeared. "Then what do you want? With your strength, you shouldn't be interested in some of our things, right?" Zhang Xinya clenched her teeth and said, "I won't force you. As long as you hand over the secret method of left and right combination, I will let bygones be bygones." Zhuowen said lightly. He had already noticed the secret method of left and right combination of Zhang Xinya and Zhang Huiya. Now that he had an excuse, he naturally did not hesitate to mention it. Hearing this, Zhang Xinya's pretty face turned pale. But after seeing Zhang Huiya trembling beside her, she sighed slightly. She took out a jade slip from her Qingquan bag, flicked her finger, and handed the jade slip to Zhuowen. She said with a cold face, "This jade slip records the secret method of left and right combination. You can check it." Ignoring Zhang Xinya's expression, Zhuowen took the jade slip naturally. He used his mental power to check the jade slip. After confirming that the jade slip indeed recorded the secret method of left and right combination, Zhuowen nodded slightly and said, "It is indeed the secret method of left and right combination. Since you are so sincere, I will not pursue the matter of murdering me until we meet again." With that, Zhuowen directly led Gu Xian and Hu Wuying past the crowd. After witnessing Zhuowen's strength, the cultivators in the dense forest did not dare to block Zhuowen's path. They all made way for him. After all, this was a ruthless person who could single-handedly defeat a high-grade spirit artifact. Such a person was not someone they could provoke. Looking at the departing figure, Zhang Xinya and Zhang Huiya's beautiful eyes were extremely complicated. They never thought that Zhuowen, who came from a low-grade city, would be so strong. This was simply illogical. Is this Zhuowen really from a low-grade city? How can he be so strong? I'm afraid his strength is comparable to a half-step ultimate Emperor realm cultivator. Zhang Xinya sighed with emotion as she bit her lower lip. Since Zhuowen had relied on his physical body to withstand the attacks from beginning to end, he did not release the aura of a half-step ultimate Emperor realm cultivator at all. Therefore, Zhang Xinya and the others had no idea what cultivation realm Zhuowen was currently at. They could only guess that Zhuowen's strength was comparable to a half-step ultimate Emperor realm cultivator. Chen Fu and the others, who were originally on tenterhooks, immediately smiled in relief when they saw that Zhuowen had no intention of standing up for Zhang Xinya and the others. The scene of Zhuowen killing Zhang Yi was still deeply engraved in his mind. Zhang Yi's strength was not inferior to his. In fact, Zhang Yi was even stronger than him. After all, even Fan Shi had been defeated by Zhang Yi. Therefore, Zhang Yi's strength could only be higher than his. However, such an expert, who was slightly stronger than him, was like a little chick in front of Zhuowen. He could not resist at all. This naturally made Chen Fu extremely fearful of Zhuowen. He was afraid that Zhuowen would cause trouble for him. How amazing! This Zhuowen is clearly from a low-grade city, but his strength is far beyond the complete Heavenly King realm. I'm afraid his strength has already reached the half-step Ultimate Emperor realm. Originally, you had the opportunity to enter the Holy City directly by relying on such an expert. However, it seems like you've wasted that opportunity. Chen Fu carried his blood-red broadsword and looked at Zhang Xinya and Zhang Huiya with a mocking smile. When Zhang Xinya and Zhang Huiya heard this, their pretty faces turned pale. Zhang Huiya lowered her head sadly, while Zhang Xinya looked at Chen Fu angrily and said, "Chen Fu, what do you mean? Are you planning to stop us from entering the Holy City?" Hee. Right now, the two teams in the Holy City, Nine Dragons City and Thunder Universe City, are extremely strong. Now, with the addition of that strange Zhuowen, I'm afraid that the control center of the Sandstone Island is not something we can get our hands on. Therefore, I, Chen Fu, might as well take some benefits from you and directly teleport out of the Origin Chi Tower. Chen Fu clenched his blood-red broadsword tightly in his right hand and shouted, "Brothers, don't be polite. Take these guys down. Right now they're just a bunch of mobs." As Chen Fu spoke, he raised his blood-red broadsword and directly attacked Zhang Xinya and Zhang Huiya. The 7 or 8 people under him were not to be outdone. They fought bravely, not giving the other cultivators any chance to breathe. "Let's go." Zhang Xinya's pretty face changed slightly. She directly took Zhang Huiya, who was a little dazed, and fled into the depths of the jungle. She knew that with Zhang Yi's death and the left and right combination secret technique's time limit, they were no match for Chen Fu and the others. Therefore, she did not hesitate to retreat directly. "You're running pretty fast. Looking at Zhang Xinya and Zhang Huiya, who were quickly disappearing, Chen Fu did not intend to chase after them. Instead, he helped his team members deal with the other cultivators. After collecting the cultivators' Qingquan bags, Chen Fu once again took a deep look at the holy city in the distance. He sighed and simply erased the words of Jeyu City on the token. Whoosh! A beam of light suddenly enveloped the people of Jeyu City, and then directly teleported them out of the Origin Qi Tower. Of course, the price was that they directly lost the qualification to participate in the Origin Qi Tower battle. Zhuowen and the other two walked slowly on a lush, tree-lined path. From time to time, other members of the vestigial clan would pass by them and look at them curiously. Soon after, they withdrew their gazes with a trace of doubt. After all, Zhuowen and the other two's attire was somewhat incompatible with the vestigial clans, so the rate of them turning their heads was extremely high. However, Zhuowen and the other two did not care about the gazes of these vestigial clan members. Zhuowen, why did you ask Zhang Xinya to take out the left and right combination secret technique? It doesn't seem to be of any use to you, right? On the way, Gu Xian asked Zhuowen rather doubtfully. This secret technique is indeed of no use to me, but it's of great use to the two of you. The left and right combination secret technique is a combination secret technique that can temporarily fuse the yuan energies of two people on a common point. Thus, the two of them can share their yuan energies and indirectly increase the density of their yuan energies. With this secret technique, the strength of the two of you will be able to rise to another level, Zhuowen said with a smile. Hearing this, Gu Xian and Hu Wuing could not help but be taken aback. They did not expect that Zhuowen wanted the left and right combination secret technique for the two of them. This made the two of them feel rather touched, and at the same time, a trace of guilt. It seemed that from the beginning, the two of them were like burdens by Zhuowen's side. Zhuowen, it's all our fault for being too weak and always being a burden to you, Gu Xian and Hu Wuing said rather shamefully. Don't say that. You are also a part of my team. Since I am your captain, I will naturally not abandon you at will. Take this left and right combination secret technique and practice it well. If you learn it, the strength of the two of you combined will be enough to reach the strength of the initial Heavenly King stage. It will be more than enough to protect yourselves. Zhuowen flicked his finger and handed the jade slip to Gu Xian with a smile. Chapter 383. 30,000 riches. A towering city gate stood not far in front of them. An ancient aura slowly emanated from the city gate, as if it was telling of its ancient history and distant experiences. This huge city gate was the Holy City Gate. If one wanted to enter the Holy City, they had to pass the test of the Holy City Gate. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to enter at all. A huge stream of people lined up in front of the city gate, waiting to enter the Holy City. Most of these people were powerful warriors with bulging muscles. Of course, there was also a small portion of them who were frail and wealthy merchants. These merchants were dressed extravagantly and had arrogant gazes. A trace of disdain flashed in their eyes, especially when they looked at the warriors dressed in ordinary clothes around them. At the same time, on both sides of the city gate, there were two warriors in silver armor. The two warriors were extremely tall and huge. Their muscles were bulging in an exaggerated arc, especially the silver badges on the chest of the two guards. It was obvious that the two guards were silver-tier warriors that should not be trifled with. At the end of the line, three slender figures were quietly lining up. These three were Zhuowen and the other two who were rushing to the Holy City. At this time, they were not in a hurry to enter the Holy City. Instead, they were quietly waiting for the line to advance. Priest Qiushui had already told them that the Holy City was not a place that anyone could enter. Only powerful warriors or rich people were qualified to enter the Holy City. If they tried to force their way in, they would be repelled by the Holy City's power. Although Zhuowen did not know how powerful the Holy City's power was, he remembered that the former lord of the Holy City, Alice, was a legendary warrior with a strength of 1,000,000 pounds. His strength was comparable to the powerful ultimate emperor realm, This so-called holy city's power was not to be trifled with, so he gave up on the idea of forcing his way in. The holy city is indeed the core of the entire Sandstone Island. The flow of people is so terrifying. Compared to the Qingshui tribe, the difference is like the difference between an ant and an elephant. Gu Xian couldn't help but exclaim as she looked at the terrifying flow of people around them. Zhuowen and Hu Wuing also nodded in agreement. The prosperity of the holy city was not inferior to the super cities of Muqin Prefecture. To be able to build such a magnificent city on a barren island like the Sandstone Island, these lost clans were quite impressive. The strange attire of Zhuowen and the other two, as well as their seemingly thin and weak physique, undoubtedly became the focus of the other people in the group. Many people looked at Zhuowen and the other two with strange gazes. Their gazes contained a variety of emotions, such as doubt, curiosity, disdain, and so on. Zhuowen's group of three paid no heed to the surrounding crowd's attitude. After all, they were not natives of Sandstone Island. Naturally, they wouldn't care about these people's gazes and attitudes. Youngsters, are the three of you planning to enter the holy city? Suddenly, a simple and honest voice came from behind Zhuowen's group. Turning their heads, they saw a middle-aged man about 40 years old, with a sturdy body and a rather simple and honest face looking at Zhuowen and the others with some worry. Yes, is there a problem? Zhuowen nodded subconsciously. The middle-aged man shook his head and said kindly, "This should be the first time the three of you are entering the holy city. You should know that not everyone is qualified to enter the holy city. You must pass a strength test before you are qualified. Moreover, the minimum requirement is at least 50,000 jin, which is equivalent to a high-grade bronze warrior. You are still too young. I'm afraid you will return disappointed." Zhuowen and the others were startled when they heard this. They never imagined that this simple and honest uncle before them would actually advise them. Perhaps this simple and honest uncle saw that Zhuowen and the others were young and appeared to be too weak to stand up to a gust of wind. So he kindly reminded them. With a slight smile, Zhuowen cupped his hands and said, "Thank you for your reminder, big brother. However, we have important matters to attend to when we enter the holy city, so we must enter the holy city this time. As for the strength test, we know what to do." Seeing Zhuowen and the other two's resolute attitude, the simple and honest uncle also knew that his advice was useless. He secretly shook his head, thinking that when the time came for the strength test, these three little guys would know how difficult it would be. Hee, three brats who don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. With your skinny arms and legs, you think you can pass the test and enter the holy city? That's simply a pipe dream. Do you really think that the holy city is your backyard, where you can enter whenever you want? When the time comes and you can't pass the test, you will cry. A sharp mocking voice suddenly sounded. Standing behind the simple and honest uncle was a somewhat impatient fat man. This fat man was rather short and had a big belly. At a glance, one could tell that he didn't have any strength to speak of. However, the clothes on his body were extremely luxurious. His neck and hands were covered in golden jewelry and jewels, making him look like a nouveau riche. Obviously, this short and fat man should be a wealthy merchant who entered the holy city to do business. At the same time, behind the short and fat man were four muscular men respectfully. These muscular men all had green badges on their bodies. Obviously, they were all bronze warriors with great strength. Many people around looked at the fat man with fear. On the Sandstone Island, some wealthy merchants had a much higher status than ordinary warriors. Of course, they were only ordinary warriors. After all, the bronze warriors were a relatively lower class of people on the Sandstone Island. It was natural for wealthy merchants to have a higher status than bronze warriors. However, if it was a silver warrior, then the status of the silver warriors was not something that the wealthy merchants could compare to. This was because the number of silver warriors was too small. Every warrior whose strength reached the silver level was basically a genius with extraordinary talent. After entering the holy city, they would basically be able to obtain a very high status and treatment. In front of such a strong person, the wealthy merchants were simply a joke. Therefore, This short and fat man was only arrogant in front of the bronze warriors. In front of the silver warriors, he was more respectful than anyone else. Guxian was a little impatient. She glared at the short and fat man and said, "You three brats are still not convinced? Do you want to fight?" The short and fat man's chubby face was full of a mocking smile, as he said loudly in a very annoying manner. Squinting his eyes, Zhuowen grabbed Guxian, who was a little impulsive, and said indifferently, "It's just a dog barking. There's no need to be so calculative." Hearing this, Guxian regained some of her rationality. She nodded slightly, and ignored the pot-bellied rich merchant. Although Zhuowen and the other two did not want to cause more trouble, the short and fat man was not happy. Zhuowen's ridicule just now had completely angered him. In any case, he was a wealthy man. Whether it was his status or wealth, he was much higher than the average bronze warrior. Moreover, he was used to the wind and rain. How could he stand Zhuowen's ridicule? "How dare you talk nonsense to me, Kai Sanqian? Teach these three brats a lesson for me." The short and fat man, Kai Sanqian, snorted and said to the four bronze warriors behind him. Seeing that things were not going well, the simple and honest man immediately stood in front of Zhuowen and the other two. He hurriedly smiled and said, "So it's Master Kai Sanqian. You are a magnanimous person. You don't have to be so calculative with these three brats. They are also young, so they speak without thinking. I hope you don't lower yourself to their level. Moreover, this is the entrance of the holy city. The rules forbid private fights." Kai Sanqian squinted his eyes. He also saw that the simple and honest man was also a bronze warrior. He rolled his eyes and said, "You also saw that these three people offended me first. If you let the three of them kneel on the ground and apologize to me solemnly, I can let bygones be bygones. How about that?" Hearing this, the simple and honest man's face stiffened. He said again, "Master Kai Sanqian, don't you think you are going too far?" "Going too far? Humph. I am already very merciful that I did not break their legs directly. Now I just want them to kneel and apologize. How is that going too far? Since these three brats don't want to apologize, then don't blame me." Saying this, Kai Sanqian waved his fleshy arm. The four ferocious bronze warriors behind him immediately surrounded Zhuowen and the other two people, as well as the simple and honest man. Zhuowen frowned. He did not expect this damn fatty to be so narrow-minded. He actually wanted to teach them a lesson, with just a sarcastic remark. At this moment, the rest of the team also noticed the farce. Many of them recognized Kai Sanqian's identity and began to whisper to each other. Isn't that Kai Sanqian? This miser has come to the holy city to do business again. It seems like we are going to make a fortune this time." The three young men seemed to have a conflict with Kai Sanqian. How unlucky. Kai Sanqian is very narrow-minded. He is the kind of person who will seek revenge. It is the three brats' bad luck to have offended such a person. Many warriors around the team looked as if they were watching a good show. They did not intend to step forward to help. Teach these four guys a good lesson. Let them know that some people are not to be trifled with. Kai Sanqian sneered. The four bronze warriors immediately pounced on the simple and honest man, Zhuowen and the other two people, with ferocious smiles on their faces. "The three of you go quickly. These guys are not people you can fight against. I will help you buy some time." The simple and honest man had a good heart. When he saw the four bronze warriors pouncing on them, he hurriedly instructed Zhuowen and the other two people behind him. This gave Zhuowen a good impression of him. "Brother, thank you for your kindness. However, we will deal with these four small fries." Zhuowen smiled. Guxian and Hu Wuying, who were beside him, stomped their feet on the ground. In an instant, they turned into indiscernible shadows. Bang 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 bang. Four dull sounds of fists hitting flesh suddenly rang out. Immediately, the four bronze warriors who were pouncing on them suddenly froze in midair. The ferocious smiles on their faces also froze at this moment. Puffed. Fresh blood spurted out from their mouths like a faucet that was not turned on properly. Then, the four bronze warriors fell heavily on the ground like dead dogs, their bodies twitching nonstop. Chapter 384. Test hiss. Gasps could be heard all of a sudden, and the surrounding crowd couldn't help but gasp. Although Kai Sanqian's 4 subordinates were only bronze-ranked warriors, their strength could reach 10 to 20,000 pounds. If the 4 of them worked together, they could probably fight against a bronze-ranked warrior. But now, in the blink of an eye, the 4 bronze warriors were all beaten down without any resistance. Those who could have such strength were at least high-level bronze warriors, and their strength could reach 70 to 80,000 pounds. Am I seeing things? The 4 bronze warriors were dealt with so cleanly and neatly, and they didn't even have the strength to fight back. These 2 young men are too terrifying. They look so thin, but their strength is so strong. The 4 bronze warriors were defeated in the blink of an eye. An uproar suddenly rang out. Immediately, a commotion broke out in the surroundings. Plop! Kai Sanqian's legs trembled, and he fell to the ground. His lips trembled as he looked at Gu Xian and Hu Wuying and said, "You, what do you want?" "Let me tell you, I, Kai Sanqian, know a lot of people in the holy city. If you dare to mess around, you'll have to bear the consequences." Kai Sanqian's heart was already filled with fear. He didn't expect that Gu Xian and Hu Wuying, who looked so thin and weak, would actually be so strong. In just a few moves, they had beaten down his 4 subordinates. "Take care of your dog. If you provoke us again, I don't know what I'll do," Gu Xian said coldly as she glanced at Kai Sanqian, who was scared out of his wits. Then she returned to Zhuowen's side. Kai Sanqian was so weak that he didn't even have the strength to truss up a chicken. Yes, you're right, I'll take care of my dog." Kai Sanqian was indeed a businessman. The speed at which he changed his attitude made the surrounding people speechless. However, Zhuowen and the other 2 didn't notice the resentment in Kai Sanqian's eyes. He thought to himself, "Damn brat, I'll deal with you after we enter the holy city." At this moment, the simple and honest uncle was already dumbfounded. He never would have thought that Zhuowen and the other 2, whom he thought to be weak and powerless, actually had such extraordinary strength. After all, to be able to instantly take care of 4 low-level bronze warriors, their strength was at least at the high-level bronze level. He really didn't expect that these 3 young people would be stronger than him at such a young age. It seemed that his worry just now was completely unnecessary. He thought self-deprecatingly, and couldn't help but shake his head gently. Zhuowen also saw the self-deprecating expression on the honest uncle's face. Zhuowen had a good impression of this warm-hearted uncle. After thinking for a moment, he took out a white porcelain bottle from his Qingquan bag and handed it to the honest uncle. "Brother, thank you so much for helping us out just now. This bottle of elixir will help you strengthen your body and has an extremely significant effect on increasing your strength. So take this as a reward for your help," Zhuowen said with a smile. Originally, the honest uncle didn't want to accept Zhuowen's porcelain bottle. After all, he didn't help at all. However, when he heard that the elixir in the porcelain bottle could increase his strength, his eyes suddenly emitted a glimmer of light. The vestigial tribe's warriors focused on training their bodies and increasing their strength. The elixir that could increase their strength was extremely precious and tempting for warriors. "Thank you, little brother. I Ho Ming owe you a favor." The honest uncle took the porcelain bottle in Zhuowen's hand with trembling hands and said gratefully. Zhuowen waved his hand. The elixir in the porcelain bottle was called the health elixir. It was an extremely low-level elixir. When Zhuowen had just crossed over, he relied on the health elixir to train his body and strengthen his body. However, as his strength increased, this elixir became more and more useless. At this time, he didn't feel any heartache to take it out. After the small disturbance just now, the team was still proceeding in an orderly manner. The other members of the team finally stopped looking down on Zhuowen and the other 2. After all, if Zhuowen and the other 2 were able to defeat 4 low-level bronze warriors so easily, it was obvious that Zhuowen and the other 2 were not weak. They were at least high-level bronze existences. Looking at the awe-inspiring gazes from all around, Zhuowen just shrugged. It seemed that the principle of the strong being respected was applicable everywhere. After about half an hour, Zhuowen's group was basically at the front of the team. At this time, it was the turn of a young and vigorous man in front of Zhuowen to test his strength. "You punch at that sacred monument. When the time comes, the sacred monument will analyze the strength in your body. Let me warn you, only when the strength of more than 50,000 jin are you qualified to enter the holy city. Don't try to fish in troubled waters. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. The two silver-ranked warriors guarding the city gate were extremely tall, at least 2 meters tall. They looked at the young man in front of them condescendingly and said in an indifferent voice. The young man responded submissively and hurriedly walked to the huge sacred monument at the side of the city gate. This sacred monument was 10 feet in size. On the surface of the sacred monument, there was a faint golden glow. At a glance, it seemed to be quite dazzling. Looking at the appearance of the sacred monument, Zhuowen raised his eyebrows. This was because he realized that this sacred monument was actually quite similar to the sealing monument in the sealed area of the Qingshui tribe. According to priest Qiu Shui, the sealing monument in the sealed area of the Qingshui tribe was created by the saintess of the holy city. It seemed that the sacred monument used to test strength was also created by the saintess of the holy city. These stone tablets were engraved with many complicated runes of formations, making them appear extremely mysterious and ancient. Thinking of this, Zhuowen was quite curious about the saintess. She was actually able to create such unique stone monuments. Moreover, Zhuowen could feel that these stone monuments relied on formations to operate. It seemed that the saintess was indeed the highest leader of all the priests on the Sandstone Island. Her attainments in formations were extremely profound. The burly young man slowly walked in front of the sacred monument. His gaze was extremely solemn. Shortly after, he let out a loud shout and took a step forward. His right fist carried a sharp wind as it fiercely punched at the sacred monument in front of him. Boom! The strong wind from the punch suddenly blasted into the sacred monument. However, to everyone's surprise, the young man's powerful punch did not leave a single mark on the sacred monument. Dang dang dang! The powerful force immediately caused the young man to retreat continuously. After retreating for more than 10 steps, he finally stabilized his body. Chi! At the same time, a golden light shot out from the top of the sacred monument, revealing 3 golden words. Strength of 60,000 jin. Pass. Enter the holy city. The guard glanced at the young man in surprise. He did not expect this young man to be able to reach a strength of 60,000 jin at such a young age. Clearly his talent was not bad. Hearing this, the young man's face immediately revealed a trace of joy. He respectfully bowed to the guard and entered the city under the envious gazes of many people. Although the number of people who came to the holy city every day was extremely large, the number of people who were truly qualified to enter the holy city was still extremely small. Those who were not qualified would stay outside the holy city and wait for the daily test to enter the city. This was also the reason why there were so many people lining up every day. Next, the guard's voice rang out again. This time, it was Zhuowen and the other two's turn. I'll go first. After taking a deep breath, Hu Wuing took the lead and walked towards the sacred monument. The guard looked at the thin figure of Hu Wuing in surprise. He did not expect such a thin young man to actually want to test his strength. Wasn't this asking for a snub? However, when Hu Wuing walked out, the eyes of many people in the line lit up. They recognized this thin figure of Hu Wuing. Wasn't he one of the people who had a conflict with Kai Sanwen's 4 subordinates? They clearly remembered that Hu Wuing defeated Kai Sanwen's 4 bronze warriors in a very straightforward manner. Obviously, this person would have a good result in the strength test. Kai Sanwen, who was standing in the line, also stared at Hu Wuing's figure without blinking. He wanted to see the extent of this kid's strength. Only after he understood the strength of these 3 brats would he be able to figure out how to deal with them in the holy city. Hu Wuing's face was calm. He clenched his 5 fingers and then casually punched the sacred monument. A thunderous sound suddenly rang out. Immediately, Hu Wuing silently took a few steps back and looked at the top of the sacred monument. Chi! The sacred tablet displayed the results in a similar manner. However, when the results finally appeared in front of everyone's eyes, everyone was stunned. Even the guards at the city gates could not help but be stunned. When he regained his senses, the gaze he used to look at Hu Wuing had changed. Strength of 300,000 gene pass. After the guard reported the result with a dry voice, a commotion broke out among the crowd. They didn't expect Hu Wuing's strength to be measured to be 300,000 gene. This was already the level of a silver-ranked warrior. A warrior of this level was in existence with high authority in the holy city. I can't believe that this young man, who looks so young and frail, actually has a strength of 150,000 pounds. This kid's strength is definitely comparable to a silver-level warrior. Yes, after this kid enters the holy city, he will definitely have a meteoric rise. The sound of discussion rang out. Everyone stared at Hu Wuing's figure with eager eyes. Little brother, your test results are excellent. Now you can enter the holy city. With your strength, if you seek refuge with Lord Otto's, I'm afraid you will be put in an important position very soon. The guard, who had a tense face, smiled for the first time and reminded Hu Wuing with enthusiasm. After all, the strength of the young man in front of him was higher than his. He did not dare to be negligent. Unexpectedly, Hu Wuing shook his head and said, "I'll wait here. My two companions also need to take the test. When they are done, it won't be too late for the three of us to leave together." Hearing this, the guard was stunned. He did not expect such a powerful young man in front of him to have companions. To be his companions, their strength must be similar. Obviously, his companions were also at the level of a silver-level warrior. Chapter 385. The broken sacred tablet. Since Hu Wuing did not want to go in now, the guard had no choice but to shout again, "Next!" After that, Gu Xian walked out of the group and stood in front of the sacred tablet. The guard stared at Gu Xian. He knew that this thin young man should be Hu Wuing's companion. The rest of the group also focused their attention on Gu Xian. They knew that the young man in front of them was probably a silver warrior, but they did not know how strong his strength was. Gu Xian secretly channeled the Yuan power in his body and threw out a punch. An ear-piercing explosion suddenly rang out, and his huge fist smashed heavily on the sacred tablet. Boom! The root-like sacred tablet suddenly shook violently. When Gu Xian retracted his fist, everyone was shocked to find that a fist print several inches thick had appeared on the surface of the sacred tablet. He actually left a mark on the sacred tablet. This guy's strength is even stronger than the guy just now. Looking at the fist print on the sacred tablet, the guard's pupils shrank as he muttered to himself in amazement. The rest of the group also became restless. From Gu Xian's performance, it was obvious that his strength was even stronger than Hu Wuing's. Everyone could not help but be moved. At the same time, a line of golden words appeared on the top of the sacred tablet. When the guard saw the result displayed in the golden words, his lips trembled as he said, "Strength of 400,000 gene pass." Hua! There was an uproar in the surroundings. Everyone's eyes bulged as they stared at the golden words on the sacred monument. They didn't expect this young man to be even more ferocious than Hu Wuing. His strength had reached 400,000 gene. Such strength could be considered as a pinnacle expert in the holy city. Which tribe are these two from? He looks to be around 20 years old, and his body isn't very robust either. Yet he can actually possess a strength of 300,000 gene and 400,000 gene. With such strength, he's an extremely respected expert in the holy city. I didn't expect there to be two silver-tier warriors in this test. What an eye-opener. Kai 30,000, who was standing in the middle of the group, immediately paled. He had not expected that Gu Xian and Hu Wuing were both silver-ranked warriors. Moreover, they were the pinnacle of silver-ranked warriors. In the entire holy city, only the ruler of the holy city had reached 500,000 energy points and became the only golden warrior. Therefore, in the holy city, the status of a silver warrior was much higher than that of the other warriors. Even if it was a lower silver warrior, it was still incomparable to the other rich merchants and bronze warriors. Kai Sanqian thought that Zhuo Wen and the other two were just high-grade bronze warriors. With Kai Sanqian's connections and wealth, he had many ways to make Zhuo Wen and the other two disappear from the holy city without anyone knowing. However, now that 2 of the 3 Zhuowen and the other 2 were silver-ranked warriors, and they were even advanced silver warriors, he could not afford to offend such people. Thinking of the strength of Gu Xian and Hu Wuying, Kai 30,000 finally felt fear in his heart. He secretly complained, "I can't afford to offend these 3 people. I can't afford to offend silver-ranked warriors. When I enter the holy city, I must avoid them." Looking at the 400,000 Jin words on the holy monument, the guard was a little numb. Although he could guess that Hu Wuying's companion's strength was not bad, he did not expect that his strength was more than 100,000 Jin stronger than Hu Wuying's. This was really beyond his expectation. Glancing at the result on the holy monument again, the guard's gaze fell on a black-haired young man, who looked about 18 years old at the front of the group. He knew that this young man should be the companion of the 2 people just now. This young man is the youngest. I'm afraid that his strength is the weakest among the 3. Maybe he can reach 200,000 Jin. The guard muttered to himself. After witnessing the abnormal performance of Gu Xian and Hu Wuying, the guard naturally would not underestimate Zhuowen, who was the youngest. Considering that Zhuowen was the youngest, he gave him a high evaluation of 200,000 Jin. One should know that if an 18-year-old could reach 200,000 Jin in strength, he would be considered a genius. Of course, the guard did not think that Zhuowen's strength would surpass the 2 young men just now. After all, Zhuowen was a little too young. In the guard's opinion, it was basically impossible for such a young man to reach 3 to 400,000 Jin. At this moment, Zhuowen's every move attracted the attention of the other people in the group behind him. They all wanted to see the results of the young man, who came out last among the 3 people. Of course, most people had the same thoughts as the guard. They believed that Zhuowen's results would definitely not be better than Gu Xian and Hu Wuying. Although there were many people who focused their attention on Zhuowen, they were not as eager as Gu Xian and Hu Wuying. After all, Zhuowen was too young. No matter how monstrous his talent was, it was unlikely that his strength would exceed 300,000 Jin at such a young age. After his name was announced, Zhuowen calmly walked to the front of the sacred stele. After approaching the sacred stele, Zhuowen could feel a strange fluctuation enveloping the surroundings of the sacred stele. Obviously, this fluctuation was injected by the saintess when she was refining the sacred stele. This sacred stele can let me test the strength of my body. I wonder what level my physical strength will reach after 2 days of tempering the crystal jades. With this thought in mind, Zhuowen clenched his 5 fingers into a fist and suddenly punched out. A huge force formed a vacuum around Zhuowen's body. Countless transparent air currents surrounded Zhuowen's fist and turned into a spiral cyclone. Boom! The punch landed on the sacred stele. Immediately, an extremely strong ring-shaped wave of air swept out in all directions with Zhuowen as the center. Many warriors who were close to the sacred stele were forced to retreat under the effect of this wave of air. Some even fell to the ground in a sorry state. Even the guard, who was a silver warrior, was shocked. He covered his face with his hands and retreated continuously. He only stabilized his body after retreating more than 10 steps. This guy's strength. After stabilizing his body, the guard immediately looked at Zhuowen in the distance. Immediately, his pupils shrank to the size of needles. His mouth opened wide uncontrollably, and his face was full of disbelief. This was because he saw that the surface of the sacred stele, which was as hard as iron, was slowly showing traces of cracks. Moreover, these cracks were constantly spreading in all directions, like the veins of a human body. Crack! A crisp cracking sound suddenly rang out. Immediately the sacred stele, which was 10 feet tall, crumbled inch by inch, and turned into an endless amount of powder that drifted in the air. At this moment, the city gate fell into an extremely strange silence. Whether it was the guards standing at the city gate, or the many warriors in the line, they were all dumbfounded as they stared at the sacred stele that had turned into powder. For a long time, they could not make a sound. Looking at the sacred stele that was shattered by his punch, Zhuowen's face suddenly had a trace of embarrassment. At the same time, there was a trace of joy in his heart. He did not expect that the effect of refining the crystal jade would be so good. In just 2 days, the strength of his physical body had reached such an unbelievable level. According to his estimation, just the strength of his physical body alone was probably around 500,000 pounds. If he directly used yuan power, the strength would be even greater. I really did not expect that just by reaching the peak of the 6th level of the jade stone body tempering technique, my physical strength would reach the standard of a gold warrior. If I can completely cultivate the jade stone body tempering technique to the 7th level, I'm afraid that my physical strength will reach an unimaginable level. It is very likely that I will not be weaker than a legendary warrior. Feeling the abundant strength in his body, Zhuowen could not help but think to himself with joy. You actually shattered the sacred steel? The strange silence at the city gate was finally broken by the guard. At this moment, the guard's voice was extremely hoarse. The gaze he looked at Zhuowen with became extremely complicated. No matter what, he did not expect that the sacred steel, which was specially used to test one's physical strength, would be shattered by someone. Moreover, this day had actually appeared in front of him. This is too unbelievable. How did this young man do it? He actually shattered the sacred steel directly. Oh my God! Just what kind of strength does this young man have? Even the saint steel was shattered by him. This is just too inconceivable. I have to rub my eyes to see if I'm hallucinating. In an instant, the entire city gate fell into an extremely frenzied discussion. Everyone's pupils constricted as they stared at Zhuowen and the sacred steel that had already turned into powder beside him. Zhuowen scratched his head slightly awkwardly and said to the guard apologetically, "It shouldn't be a problem to break this sacred steel, right?" Hearing this, the corner of the guard's mouth twitched. Although he really wanted to scold this young man in front of him, he did not dare to. This was because this young man's physical strength could possibly reach the level of 250,000 pounds. This was because a silver warrior could not shatter the sacred steel with a single punch. Only a gold warrior could do this. He did not dare to offend such an existence. Where did this young man come from? To be able to shatter the sacred steel with a single punch, his physical strength could very well be at least 250,000 pounds. His strength is enough to be ranked as a gold warrior. Thinking bitterly in his heart, the guard hurriedly smiled respectfully and said, "Of course it's all right. How can this sacred steel be compared to Sir? Your physical strength has reached the standard. You can definitely enter the holy city directly." Seeing the forced smile on the guard's face, Zhuowen felt a little apologetic in his heart. However, he knew that since he had already destroyed the sacred steel, it was impossible for him to take out another one. Therefore, he nodded slightly and directly led Gu Xian and Hu Wuing into the city gate. "Sir, what should we do next? The sacred steel has already been destroyed by that, sir. How are we going to test it?" A man standing behind the guard asked with a bitter smile. "Sai, you should quickly go to the Parthenon temple and inform the saintess about this matter. The saintess should have extra sacred steels. She can just take out another one. However, that young man's strength has definitely reached the level of a gold warrior. When you return, you should also inform the saintess." The guard quickly calmed down and said to the man behind him, "You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."